Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. I have a very exciting show for you all today. It's the state of combat with, in my opinion, and I think most people's opinion, some of the best combat pilots in the game. TheDarkLaw, Moist Noodle, some of the best flyers in the game, and there are so many changes that I don't feel I'm qualified to discuss very much. I could tell you how I feel from like a casual player's perspective, but these guys have been some of our top pilots in the game and very knowledgeable pilots for a very long time. And we're just going to jump right into that conversation right now. Moist, Darklaw, hello. How you guys doing? 3.14, huh?
Hello.
So I guess we'll start out with Moist. Before we get into the conversation, we'll just like introduce you guys, where people can find you, all that stuff. So we'll go from my right here. So we'll start with Moist.
Hi, I'm Moist Noodle. I don't know how to introduce myself because I kind of took a bit of a hiatus through 3.13.
Who didn't?
For PvPers. It was a pretty brutal patch. So I've been spending a lot of time playing other games. I'm definitely into sim games. I've been playing Flight Sim, DCS World, stuff like that. But yeah, primarily a PvP streamer. I used to low fly with the TheDarkLaw. Actually, I can't remember. Was it 3.8 or 3.10, Michael? I can't quite remember.
3.10 would be the last time.
But I kind of had to stop doing that because performance planet side for me got really bad. It was super stuttery. But I have a new gaming machine now, so especially with 3.14, my frame rate performance is much better. So I'm hoping if I can approach a moon or planet without exploding, that would be nice. Then I might actually be able to do some low flyings. Yeah, and I do a lot of talking about Star Citizen.
Very nice.
I'm very opinionated.
Yeah, and you've obviously been a fairly regular guest on the podcast, so people should be quite familiar with you. Mike, TheDarkLaw, we've wanted to have you on, and we were going to, but something came up not too long ago, and I'm very excited to have you on today. I was kind of waiting for something exciting like this. Describe yourself, where people can find you, what you do for your content as a Star Citizen creator.
All right. I am Michael Darklaw Lawrence. Pretty much low flying is my thing. A little bit of combat, a little bit of PvP. You'll find me on my channel. And yeah, that kind of sums up. I fly very low, very fast. Also sponsored by Sneak Energy Drink. Low
Nice.
Sugar. Or sugar. Gotta get it in various flavors.
What's your
Thank
code?
You very much. That's it. Code TDL.
There you go. You gotta put the code in, man. Come on. All right. So I think jumping right into it, I want to get, before we even go into like the nitty gritty, the details. We are obviously in the first wave of the PTU. There's still a lot of things that need to be ironed out. Just overall general thoughts on the PTU so far. Like just 3.14. 3.13 was I think a tough, long grind to get through. How does 3.14, how's it starting to feel?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think this is it could it's a very exciting patch. But I think where we're at the moment, depending on how fixes go in the PTU, and how balance changes go, I think that's where everything is at the moment. For me, I am in love with the flight changes. I'm in love with the capacitor changes. Flight just feels smooth. I feel like I'm engaging with my ship more with the capacitor changes. But I'm sure we'll come on to it a little bit later. Desync is worse now than it was in 3.13, and for most PvPers it was unplayable in 3.13. So it depends on, I think, each individual person. I'm super excited with 3.14 if we can get some of the desync issues sorted.
True. Mike, what do you think?
Pretty much the same with Noodle. I would say this is the first patch since 3.8, where I've actually been really happy with it, actually. The flying, the mechanic changes, obviously we've got the desync. That's not going away anytime soon. But like CIG sort of taking it by the reins and trying to balance out weapons or rechange what we've had for numerous amount of years of really bad archetypes and stuff like that, and they've changed out now or starting to change it. So it's I always try to describe what I'm missing from CIG, which is like a foundation to the game. We don't have a foundation, and this sort of feels like build something that might one day turn into a game.
Sure, it feels like they're
Yes.
starting to lay the first bricks, right?
9
Yeah.
years and we're at the foundation.
Yeah, right.
I know.
Finally.
So just so you guys know, for whatever reason, this definitely appears to be on my end for some reason. Moist camera is going to be a little bit fuzzy occasionally. It's going to pop in, it's going to pop out. So I apologize for that.
Sorry, everyone.
No, it's not your fault. It's definitely mine, because I can even see when I was trying to bring up your clips, it was autoing down to like 160p. So it's something with my internet. So yeah, don't think it's on you. Yeah, I kind of agree. As a non-combat pilot, I look around and I'm starting to see the groundwork get laid for that side of things. And I think Moist hit the nail on the head, right? 9 years and we're starting to lay the groundwork. And I think from what I'm seeing is, correct me if I'm wrong, all the components straight across, same whatchamacallit. I like it. Same stats.
I think I've talked about this twice on my stream the last week. Well, since it went public. I think that's really exciting because it was only a few weeks ago that I was criticizing CIG because, this is an alpha, right?
Yeah.
And a big part of this project was that we help influence the development of the game, right? And it's an alpha that also has a public test universe, right? But CIG publicly have always seemed to be very kind of opposed to what's the word I'm looking for? Just playing around with stats in the PTU publicly and trying out different things. I'm not quite sure why. Like, surely I am all for, having one set of stats and then completely flipping it on the head and trying out different sets of stats and going from one extreme to the other and seeing what works, right? And I'm glad that they're doing that publicly now rather than just in Evocati. I think that's exciting. And a big reason for it is because, there are some great people in Evocati. Somebody, I was talking to somebody last night about Evocati and they described it as being in the trenches, and it really is. But the issue with Evocati is that, sometimes you just don't have the right people with the right skills testing the right things at the right time. And at least by having this public, the balancing being public, you have the whole of the PvP community chiming in and giving their opinion, as well as Evocati, and it gives CIG enough feedback, and not just feedback from actual players, but analytic data as well, to see what is and isn't working. So for me, I love the fact that they're doing this publicly.
Yeah. I don't know, Mike, anything you want to add?
I'm pretty much in agreement with that. Again, it kind of goes back to the foundation stuff where it's just nice to see change. It's nice to see them doing stuff a bit more public as well, where it's like, this is where we want ships, weapons, and shields to have like a roles sort of system instead of the one-trick pony, meta, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, like pretty much exactly what Moist Neil said. Very much agreement of it. It's nice to see where it's going.
Yeah, I think eventually what I like the most about it is the fact that they're going, this is how I read what they're doing, is they're literally going, okay, we need to decide and dial in and finally come to an agreement as to this is how a light fighter feels. This is how a medium fighter feels. This is how a heavy fighter feels. This is how a cargo hauler feels. These are the things that we are going to do to make these things feel the way they are. And we are not going to allow the 5,000 components that we have in the game affect that at the moment. We're going to decide the feel and then decide how those components are going to enhance that feel instead of completely change it or whatever they want to do in the future, I guess. It is crazy. And again, it just goes into Boy's comment about 9 years that like now is when that happens. But I am so happy that we're finally there. You know, it like, throw the last 9 years away. It doesn't matter anymore. Like that idea doesn't make a difference. As long as we're here now and they build upon where we are, I feel super positive about it. It feels good. I was very worried that this was going to be overcomplicated, too many buttons to press. Maybe I still do feel it's a little bit high barrier to entry for a new player, versus like even a player who doesn't play that much as far as like combat stuff goes, like me. But I think it's in the right direction in the sense of the goal. What their goals are is to generally, it seems like, to get that feel. How does it feel so far?
Smooth.
Yeah.
Just really smooth. Like one of the reasons I actually want to try and get back into low flying with Michael is because I actually haven't had this conversation with Michael yet, TheDarkLaw. But I think atmospheric flying is actually really exciting now. There is, it feels like there's more skill required to fly in Atmo.
Yes.
In a good way.
Yeah.
It feels like you're flying an aircraft. It's really exciting.
We'll DarkLaw, go for it on your thoughts on this, and I'm gonna bring up this video view that's absolutely insane.
The thing that I've seen the most with the changes, where you don't have ships overheating. This was a big killer in the game for me. If anyone remembers, we sort of had it start in coming in at 3.8 kind of point, 3.9, but it didn't get to the extreme levels. And now, because you're dependent on capacitor, dependent on your boost, the timing of the boost, the ships can go a lot faster. But when you actually get to certain heights, I have noticed that CIG seem to have maybe changed something in atmospheric flying, where when you get, say, over 400, 500 meters a second, it doesn't behave like a spaceship anymore. It behaves like a jet fighter, which has got me very, very excited to when they bring in like the ailerons and the
I think that might actually be a result of that work that they're doing, because when they first implemented lift, they did it on a flat plane, and I have a funny feeling that they've probably, with this flight model, they might have updated the wings so they actually have aerofoils.
Yeah.
And I think you can see
in this clip here, you're actually having to roll and pitch into turns instead of just side strafing now. To get these speeds and these turns, you have to literally use the roll and pitch. There's no way of yawing anymore like you could in 330 to go around corners.
I mean, I'm seeing 500 meters per second.
Yeah,
like,
you can push it to 700 in the straights. This part, just coming up right now in this turn, watch the right bank on it. I am pushing that mountain at insane speeds, and you could not do this in 313.
Yeah,
by holding that. You can see it flop as well.
The thing I've noticed as well is if you don't get your roll and pitch exactly right, you spin out of control.
Exactly, yeah. You actually see in the final part, the nose of the ship starts to rock under certain pressures of going around corners, and that's really cool. Yeah. So for the stuff for like next year with control services, I actually think when it comes to flying in heavy atmospheres, you're going to have to fly like a full jet fighter and not a spaceship anymore. Which I'm very excited for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be nuts.
But only in atmosphere.
Yeah. I wonder how that'll affect like some of the cargo hauling and that kind of stuff. Those ships that just, like a Caterpillar is just like a flying box, and how that will really be affected.
Well, the thing is, you've got to look at that. A Caterpillar comes into atmosphere I actually feel like it's going to be, say right now, you can just do this, right?
Yeah.
And dive right down. I feel very much, and I've talked to Creighton about this, is where bigger ships are going to have to come in nose up like shuttles and slow down gradually,
Down.
or they
Yeah.
just they fall out the sky. And that's where like a caterpillar skill would actually be very difficult, where you've got to come in slowly, because if you nose down, you're just going to go straight into the ground. So certain situations under combat, having to come into a secured area with a big ship will be very, very skillful for people.
Yeah.
But obviously, with the jet fighters or the fighters itself, have to behave more like a traditional jet fighter,
Yeah.
which is really, really cool to see CIG starting to work.
Yeah, it's true. Somebody in chat said, I have to repeat, this is such a great question. Fuck cargo hauling. How will this affect concept sales? We have to know this, guys. This is very important. No, just kidding. I just felt like I had to repeat that for some reason. It was just ridiculous. The next thing I want to talk about is, well, actually, no, I really want to talk about this since I think it's on the same subject that we just were on a little bit. The idea of escaping seems like it is a real reality and something that is, I find, to be very interesting. I haven't really tested it or tried it out too much, but the acceleration speed when using your boost now is insane. I mean, from 0 to top speed is massively different than it ever was before. So the idea of, like, in the middle of a fight, you kind of feel like you're dying or you're gonna lose. To me, it seems like you can make the choice to leave.
This
now.
is the first.
I don't know. You guys might
is
understand it better than I do.
This is the first time in Star Citizen's history where I've actually felt like, and this might upset some people saying this, I feel like I'm in Star Wars. And what I mean by that is, like,
Yeah.
it was always Chris's vision, right? To have that Star Wars style combat. And you'll never get it exactly like that because this is a 6 degree of freedom game, which is not Star Wars. But what they've done with the flight model now is they put far more emphasis on the forward and back, because you'll notice that your retro thrust is way more powerful now as well. So you can slow down. So what I find myself doing in combat a lot is kind of accelerating towards somebody, strafing down, but then reversing, kind of flicking to pull my crosshair back into their pip. So there's way more emphasis on forward and back than just circle strafing. Like, I still circle strafe, but you know, I find myself adjusting my forward and back a hell of a lot more, and I actually really like it. I can understand why some PvP, you know, there are some PvPers who heard I want 2.6 back. They will never be happy. It doesn't matter what CIG does. I don't think they'll ever be happy because they want that really. I personally see it as arcadey style combat, and you know, ships didn't feel like they had any weights. But no, I agree with you. I think if you want to escape, you got a better chance now of escaping than ever before. But somebody who is very skilled and very quick to change their capacitor will still be able to keep up with you.
Okay.
I think it. When we had the old flight model of like 3, when did they change it? 3.5, right? Before 3.5, the skill gap between top tier PvPers and everyone else, it was huge.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was really excited about was the fact with the new flight model, I thought that it really narrowed that skill gap more, and it really did. You know, there's a reason more people are PvPing now than ever before, and that's one of those reasons. And I think the skill gap now is still about the same, but I think the amount of skill at the ceiling is higher. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can push yourself further. Because the thing is, and this is why I was really happy actually about their decision to include bubble shields on fighters. There wasn't really much point having shield quadrants on fighters, because at the end of the day, most of the PvPers, what we were all doing was going into the fight, we would just pump our shields full forward and just leave it there. And then you don't engage with the shield until either you've died or the other person has died. Whereas now, you know, if you're not engaging with the shield anyway, just make it a bubble. But what I do find myself adjusting constantly in combat is my capacitor, you know? So
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll start with Mike on this one. Actually, we should say the DarkLaw. My name's Mike, so it's easy to
Let's
say.
go. Michael, Mike.
Whatever you're comfortable
whatever.
with. I'm sorry. The
TDL. Don't mind.
TDL. All right. We'll start with you here. The capacitor gameplay. Do you find now this is something definitely for both of you guys, because I saw a lot of conversation about how much the combat pilots enjoyed this. And do you find yourself having, like, switching between these things, or do you find yourself more often just because, like, I would feel with the current system that if you are a good pilot, like the two of you, that you're probably just going to be mostly flicked towards weapons, trying to get your weapons back up, because it still does feel like the game has not changed from that DPS race that it was before. It does seem to be shifting, but it does still feel like a DPS race to me. Good combat pilots, feel like you're just winning most of your fights anyway. The one who has the better aim is still going to win, right?
Yeah, I think it's more the capacitor comes into situation and scenarios more than the kind of mentality. I'm going to use Arena Commander 1v1 kind of meta thinking, where you're in that situation where you've got to dodge each other's shots and you're going for that DPS race. In the PU, that's not the case, I feel, and it never really has been the case, but obviously people treat it like it's Arena Commander. In the PU now, 313, you could probably go into a dogfight against two competent people and you could dodge around and maybe get rid of one of them.
Okay.
In 314, that's no longer the case. If you go into a fight and there's two people versing you and they're of decent skill level, you're not coming out of it. Your shields are gone. You don't have the ability to fly away as fast as possible because they can do exactly the same thing. And that's where, like, coming in, doing certain tactics, strafing runs, trying to get a feel of it beforehand. A bit like chess. You're moving the pawns out, seeing where the battle goes, and then going in for the kill. I like how that's changed in 314. It's no longer, I'm flying around in one ship, few shields, same weapon, and I can take on 7 people at once, no problem. So very, very happy with where capacitors come. I would like to see it move away from the triangle. I think the triangle system does not work. Star system. I personally, and bringing it up, the Elite Dangerous method is so much better, where you've got the pips and you put the power into certain areas. This whole 33%, 55%, and some other things like that on the go, it's just, I would just like one power to here, one power to here, one power to here, and
click,
all that jazz.
Click.
It was really funny, actually, because I had this whole conversation on my stream. I even pulled up Microsoft Paint and I showed examples of how I might want it to look like, even if they wanted to stick with the triangle. And then I came over to your stream and you were having exactly the same conversation. The issue that I have with the triangle is in combat, at least, I don't sound arrogant, but in higher tier combat, you're having to react to changes very, very quickly. And this is what, there are some people complaining about how cluttered the HUD is right now. Well, I get it. You might not want this, and this on the HUD. But for people like myself, or the DarkLaw, Virgil, like any of the guys from Shadow Moses, anybody who kind of does PvP consistently,
I actually want more.
Yeah, I want more as well. Like my power triangle. Why am I having to look down to an MFD when I want to have this right there in my, I don't want to spend time looking away from my target, right? Now, the main issue that I have with the triangle is that very often you're quickly flicking to take a look at something and it's basically a glancing, just a glance, right? So when, for example, you have power set all the way to engines, or all the way to guns, or all the way to shields, it's very difficult to have a quick glance at the triangle and actually work out where it's set. You actually have to kind of hyper focus on the triangle for a second to work out where your power is set. Now, if we think about how the pip system works in Elite Dangerous, you can tell straight away at a glance, because either, it's equal across the board, or one of the boxes is more filled than the other two, right? Or whatever. It's so clear at a glance where
Yeah.
your power is set, and that's how it
It'd be
needs to
nice if
be.
they sort of, sorry to cut you in there, but like
That's right.
balance it out where instead of the weird numbers, just do it 25%.
Yeah.
So you've got the 4 notches all the way up. Because
Mhm.
as with what Salty's showing in the video here,
Yeah.
the red, the yellow, and the blue bar, as much as it's just development, for them to test out, right now,
That's better than
in
what we
combat,
have.
you would be very...
Yeah.
It's better what we have, but even then, you're like, am I at 25%? I can't really tell if I'm like moving my head around unless I glance at it. So CIG should just do it the basic thing, which is 25 being a box, then another box on top of it, then another box, and then you only go up by 25%, making it very simple, very basic, and then you can move the power around. So you've only got 4 notches basically. You can either go all the way to maximum on power, like weapons, or you can like balance out in different stages.
For
Just
me-
like they do in Elite Dangerous. They just copy it because it's
Yeah.
so simple, it's
Yeah.
easy.
Why not? And the thing for me is both of you guys use head tracking, correct?
Mhm.
I do not.
Yeah.
So look at where the power triangle is on the screen that I'm showing.
It's
not.
dependent
Yeah.
on the ship.
It's dependent on the
Some
ship,
ships,
and most of the ships,
Yes.
you can't see it. And I
Yeah.
don't use head
Yeah.
tracking. So the only way for me to
Mhm.
see it is to take my hand off of my sticks, hold F, or keybind something on one of my sticks, which I think is ridiculous, to be able to look down
Yeah.
and see. Where I should be able to just, in the corner of my eye, go, the red is higher than the yellow. The yellow is lower than the blue. I should put more into blue because my shields are down. Whatever, right? If I
Yeah.
was to be critical about anything here, I think they super dropped the ball on the HUD when it comes to
I
that.
agree.
That is one of, if you are going to make it as paramount and as important as they are going to do, it needs to be a paramount and important HUD element. It is not our fault that you built the ships in 2012 to have these MFDs in these weird places. That is not our fault. It is their job now to kind of resolve that issue.
Yeah.
The most important information should not be on the MFDs ever, and that is it's a valuable information right now, right? And if not,
the
it'll be
MFD
more
Yeah,
valuable.
And I hate to go
The-
back on it with like Elite Dangerous. Elite Dangerous just make it simple, and that's
Yeah.
what generally
Mhm.
anyone really wants in this game, is that we want it to go crazy of levels and so forth. But if you go into any ship, first of all, you've got to get into the shield there, power there. Because turning here, I might be able to see that in my eye, and that's really bad, lazy gameplay writing. Just make it where you get rid of these silly MFDs and just make it where you've got the information on the HUD, and that's it. You can have all the other stuff down below if you want, like watch YouTube on an MFD or something
Something-
like that. But
Somebody told me to play in 4x3 then. What a dick.
I mean, they make a good point.
yeah.
So something to bear in mind as well is that, and somebody just said in chat, not bad for a first. What did they say? Not bad for a beginning, right? This isn't the beginning, bro. We're 9 years in. But you have to bear in mind that the HUD as well will change depending on the operator mode that you're in, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, the MFDs should be for non-critical information and inputting information. and
Exactly.
data,
Yeah.
right. That's what I think they
100%
should
agree
be.
on this.
There are a couple of things I would really praise in relation to the new HUD. One, I'm so happy that my ammo count is there now. That is
Yep.
lovely. And two, something that I've been asking for years has finally been added to the HUD, which is a fixed TBI. So just to the right at the bottom of your speed, there's a little indicator, and that is a fixed TBI. And that might
Yeah.
not sound that important to a lot of people who don't do combat, but what that
I'm
means
gonna
is
try and
when
find
you're
this because I have no idea what you're talking about.
so the TVI stands for
So-
thrust vector indicator, right? So it basically shows you where you're heading. Now, we've had a TVI in the game since the beginning of time, right? It floats in space. What it looks like right now are two triangular brackets, right? So If they're facing outwards, you're going backwards. If they're facing inwards, you're going forwards, and they float around in space. Now, the problem with this is if you're in combat, you can very quickly lose your vector. You're not quite sure which direction you're heading in. You're trying to fight somebody, and the last thing you want to do is be looking all the way around your screen trying to find this floating TVI that is somewhere on your screen. And another problem with it is that the floating TVI actually, for every axis of your screen, on the edge of your screen is cut off by half. So if it's on the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen, it's cut in half, and if it's on the side, it's cut in half. If it's in the corner of your screen, you only see a quarter of it, so you only see a tiny little line. And that's a nightmare. So what they've done is, if you just look to the right of the, just above the left MFD,
I've actually
you'll see that
added
little dot there.
image into the group chat if you want to bring that up. So
So
it's
essentially
impossible
what this
because the
does-
group chat is where our cameras are. So I could bring it up. Give me a second. I can go here and then bring it up.
So essentially what this
somewhere else.
No.
what this little dot does is, it's a fixed place on your HUD that you can look at and very quickly be able to understand what direction your ship is going in, which is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little messy, but I can fix it because it's huge.
That was something I knocked up.
Oh, no.
So the first
that's
heading is
perfect.
basically what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it's covering our... Oh, I know why it's covering our cameras. Hold on.
You get to see it anyway.
There we go. We're good now.
Where the thrust heading is what Moist Noodle's talking about.
So,
So the thrust heading there, essentially, there are two things on there. So the little white dot is basically where your vector indicator is compared to your ship. And then the faster that you're going on the edge of the ring, you'll see like a red line, and the bigger the line is, the faster you're heading in that direction. So it's like I was talking about the TVI and how you want to be able to just look at something at a glance in combat. It allows you to look at that at a glance very quickly and work out.
Now
where
I see
your
the
vector
red
is.
line. Yep. Yeah. So now I see the red line, which direction you're going in. That's very interesting. Okay.
Super
Cool.
handy.
Neat.
The other
Would
really
have never
nice
known
thing
what
is you
that
get
was.
to see your 3 points of G's as well. So
Yes.
beforehand we just
Right
had
here.
the little circle that had the dot moving around absolutely crazy. Now we actually have a graph of where G's are moving. So you can see that he's now going up strafing, left strafing. So you have not only just your TVI, but you have your thrust indication, you have your G indication, and they actually show you where you're going, where thrust is. So if you use your peripheral view, it just makes it so much easier to understand flight in the game now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't have any way of telling other players this, but
Yeah.
well, I've just
Yeah, like you guys knew what it meant. I kind of looked at those and was like, oh, okay, I have no idea what those things are. I'll just ignore them. But now that I understand, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, when you understand those things, it allows you to it really does help you in combat when you start using them. Somebody mentioned about the TVI, the fixed TVI being very small. I agree, it is very small. And the other thing that I would like changed about it, I'd like it made slightly bigger. And also, I think there needs to be a line between the center dot and the actual TVI, because sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to work out how far away the TVI is. But yeah, I think it's awesome.
So I think this video we're watching is a perfect segue into talking about the changes to weapons, because Moist is flying around. And his mantises are completely empty. He has no ammo, and he's just trying to kill this guy with missiles.
Yeah, I'm just trying to evade this guy. So
So
I get him in the end, though.
Did you really? All right, I'll leave it up then. We'll have to see. Oh no!
Ramming is a valid tactic.
So yeah, touch on that a little bit, guys. I guess we'll start with we started with the first couple of things with Boyce. We'll start with the next couple with Mike. What do you think about the changes to weapons? Again, this to me feels very much in line with the way you're trying to ram now. The way that we changed the way that they're trying to focus on light fighters, medium fighters, and so on. Now they're definitely trying to to focus directly on certain weapon types and the way that they're supposed to react. How do you feel about all this?
So for me, when it comes to like dogfighting, the old method of where some fights, I mean, you take desync aside, you would have it where, say, I was fighting Moist Noodle, right?
Mhm.
We take away the idea of desync, and it's just myself and Moist Noodle, 3-11 or something before the desync got really crazy.
Yeah.
You're fighting, it goes into a fight of two equally skilled people. It goes down to who's got more stamina over the other person. It's not so much more about skill. So with the weapon changes, it's massively brought down the time to kill, which I think is a great thing for fighters, because you should not be fighting one person for 5 minutes. That's just insane gameplay. If you're doing bigger ships, that's fine. Yep.
And I promise I won't go on a long. I think the reason for that is because now it's easier to make mistakes. So you're 100% right. It does come down to your stamina, and the more tired you get, the easier it is for you to make a mistake. And the moment you make the mistake, you're done.
Yeah. But instead of it being 5 minutes to get to that point because of how ships' shields were working, it's now very much a 30-second to a minute fight on two competitive levels instead of the drawing on. The changes with the weapons, where ammo is a lot shorter. A lot of people have been complaining about how limited the ammo is. Just don't hold the trigger. Just let go of it. I mean, quite easy, to be honest. Just be more disciplined with shooting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish. I apologize.
All right. Then you've got energy. So, for example, energy now has it where instead of you just holding it down, overheating, you have the ability to be like, I've got 30 shots on this grouping. I've got 30 shots in my other grouping. I'm going to use both groups, but I'm going to let go of one group before it runs out, so it starts to recharge, using the other group to quickly keep the damage on, and then finishing shot with the main group. So again, instead of you just putting all weapons on one group and going, oh, let's freaking go, you know, now you actually have to be like, right, I'll do it this way, maybe back off, throw a missile in, their shields are down, go for the kill.
I agree.
It's so much better. It's cleaner.
I find myself, like for example, earlier, Mike, you mentioned about, just putting power into weapons. I initially do that, right? When I'm opening the engagement, I will go as aggressive as I can.
Right?
Alpha strike, and I'll use my lasers in one group to smash the shields down. And then the moment that the ammo, because I've got a dual stage trigger, so I can use both weapon groups separately. The moment that the lasers run out and I know the shields are down, I just start opening fire with my ballistics. And by the time the lasers are fully charged again, I stop firing my ballistics to try and conserve as much ammo as possible. And then I go back to my lasers because, I know right now that there are a lot of PvPers who are just going balls to the wall, all ballistic. But you have to think in the long term that it's going to be about also your ability to stay in the fight. And the last thing that you want to do if it's a group fight or you're fighting multiple people, is not have any ammunition, right? So you've got to think about conserving your ammo and actually mixing your weapons up.
Yeah, and correct
I'm
me
going to bring
if I'm
up
wrong.
here with
Go ahead. No,
just go in this. What Geek the Freak says, I can't stand jousters, they're scared to get in the fight. Generally, jousters are not scared to get in the fight. Generally, a jouster is somebody that doesn't understand to control their speed. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But if you actually think about it, there's a lot of times where, say you're fighting somebody, and especially in 314, you have to disengage, get your shields back up.
Yes.
You're also technically jousting.
Yeah, people are
you may hate jousters, but you're doing it.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I completely agree with you, and that's what I was about to mention. There are some people who are confusing jousting, which, in my opinion, jousting is a result of not managing your speed with tactics, right? And you disengaging or trying to stay behind the target so they can't hit you and outmaneuver them is not jousting. That's you trying to get your shields back up, trying to get power back into your weapon capacitors, right? You're not going to sit there floating in front of the target just to let them hit you. Combat in Star Citizen now is about trading blows, and people need to start treating it like they're trading blows. Don't call people a jouster, and don't accuse people of being a scaredy cat just because they're waiting for their guns to recharge or their shields to recharge, right?
Yeah, there's actually reasons now. But I agree with you.
Well,
For
if you
me, I
actually look
feel
at-
like my speeds whenever in 313, I was flying all over the place because I don't have good control over my ship. So it seems like I'm
Yeah, that just
jousting,
takes
or
time.
it even seems like the other person is jousting because they're trying to stay with me, right? So because I'm the one
Yeah.
who's the idiot. So like when I was doing like Moist, your school, that's what a lot of the fights seemed like for me. I'm like, oh, we're jousting again. But what I wasn't realizing at the time was I was the one that was causing it in the first place, right? But I want to get back on the guns again a little bit instead of the flying. The one thing that I was going to bring up is, and I'm more asking you guys this question if you have the knowledge of this or not. The capacity per weapon is based on the weapon type, correct? So if I
believe so, yeah.
So what they're attempting to do, if this is on purpose or not, is they're trying to get away from these mono builds that we've used for forever. And you will get the maximum capacity if you are using different types of weapons, correct? Out of your capacity.
Sorry, what was the question again? Because I started thinking about a conversation I was having with somebody else in regards to this topic.
Okay, so if I wanted to get the most out of my ship, I would use 2 different types of guns if I had 4.
Well, it depends, right? So,
Yeah.
like I was talking about before, are you talking about a 1v1 situation, or are you talking about a
It's
larger
more
group fight
a
where you
general-
need to stay in the fight?
No,
right? Because
so don't think when I say types, it's not. It can be 2 different laser repeaters.
oh, okay.
Right? It's to
Yeah.
get the most out of your
Yeah,
capacitor
it's-
pool.
To actually do it effectively, you want to just split the groups. So say for example, you're using, say a Saber has like 4 neutron repeaters. Having 2 in one group, 2 in another group is actually a better thing because, like I was saying earlier on, you can use the 4 to burn somebody's shields down. Let one of them charge up and then just keep potting to make sure their shields come down. And then when you've got the full burn on your full thing, you can do that whilst recharging the other one. It allows you to stay in a fight effectively.
It also helps prevent the shields from regenning as well.
Yeah,
which is
because
super
that's
useful.
the biggest thing right now is if you let somebody off damage-wise within 4 or 5 seconds, if they power management, their shields are back up to 100%.
True.
You know,
The
and that's the thing. Whereas having it where you're using sort of smaller guns, maybe depending on your build, where you use the big guns, you let them charge up for the kill shots, and then you use the smaller guns, maybe size 1, size 2, to just keep the damage on because they've got more shots because of how capacitors work or how power plants work. We don't exactly know how we're going to be able to extend it. But I think what you were trying to go on is that if, for example, you have 4 neutrons again, if you actually turn off
You'll have
one of the
12
neutrons,
shots.
all 3 of those guns, the other 3 guns will have more shots. But as I tried to point out on my channel, you then have less DPS.
Yes.
Because you've got less one gun going. You might be able to keep the damage going, but you're not applying as maximum damage.
Check this out though. It's my understanding, and maybe since we've only had a few days of testing, it's my understanding that if I use 2 neutrons, I get the same effectiveness and capacity on said neutrons as if I turned off the 2. If I also add 2 Panther repeaters, I get the same effectiveness on those Panther repeaters as if I have only 2 Panther repeaters. So it's my understanding that even though I have 4 guns attached to my ship, because I'm using different ones, the actual weapon, it determines the pool. So the neutron repeaters, the pool shrinks the more neutron repeaters you add. So I'm asking that question.
So
this is what I was kind of
think-
leaned on today.
Yeah,
I don't know if that was
I don't
the case.
think it's
Okay.
I don't think that's supposed to be the case. Now, interestingly, I was having a conversation with Kay Winter yesterday because I'm kind of, well, it wasn't really a conversation. It was just a suggestion, and apparently it was something that they discussed. But when
we just rocked
the
4
patch
different weapons
first,
then.
when the patch first dropped, there were lots of people who were just going balls to the walls and going all ballistic, right? And the alpha damage was so insane that people were popping instantly. And a suggestion that I made, and I knew this would be controversial, but I'd be interested to see them trying it, is have a shared pool of ammunition for ballistics. So by all means, have 5 ballistics on your on your Hornet, but there's a shared physical space for that ballistic ammo in the ship, and yeah, that's got to be shared amongst all the weapons.
Yeah, I would
issue
totally
is
down for that. It makes
if
sense.
you go all
like, bigger
ballistic,
ships
then
should
you
have more
can't
ammo.
hold you can't hold down the fire button for as long, right? I'd like to at least see them try that to see what sort of effect that it has. You know,
It was like somebody was moaning, like, "Oh, I'm flying around with 2 Revenants. I only have like what 500-600 rounds." And in my head, I'm like, "Where do you think the rounds are in this ship? Where are these rounds? We have physicalized like engines and everything is physicalized in this game. Where do you think these magic 600 rounds plus are just going to hang off the side like a giant belt or something?" So I think like your idea of where mixing out the weapons, or say for example you have like a couple of miniguns, a couple of cans. The cans are going to have bigger rounds. That depletes the space for the minigun rounds or something like that. I'd be totally down for that. That makes a lot of sense as well.
I do like the change that they made with the latest patch, though, which is in regards to energy weapons. If you have more power in the weapon capacitor, it does increase the capacitor magazine for energy weapons. That was a good improvement. Yeah, and again, it's an example of them showing experimentation. Yeah,
but that also goes towards
something.
like shields. You get resistance to shields now by putting more power to the shields. And same with thrusters. You now get less capacitor use on boost if you actually do it that way. It's great. It means that you have to actually just think a little bit more instead of looking at each other, firing the gun, hoping for the best. You actually have to be like, well, you know, if I come in and I try and maybe drag them a bit, make them energy deprived, I come in then, strike full shields up or weapons, whatever, you can go in for a kill because they can't get their movement back and stuff. There's more tactics in the game. And I really enjoy that.
So exciting. It really is. Even from somebody like
this
is the first time, like, man, the last time we had Moist on, I was like pretty excited to try to learn combat and stuff like that and just start to get back into PvP. And I tried and I just couldn't bring myself to do it as much as I thought I might have been able to. I think I just did it out of necessity because I was bored and didn't know what else to do. And now
I think
I'm like legitimately excited to learn the ins and outs again. Yeah.
I think 3.14 has the potential of being a very exciting time to get into PvP. I think, or just into combat, not even necessarily a PvP. You can still have fun with PvE on a server where the AI isn't completely broken. You know?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've mostly been doing that so far, and it's been quite rewarding, especially in groups. I think I want to touch on the group stuff shortly. I don't know. Is there anything else that you guys would like to discuss off the top of your head in relation to the general changes with capacitors or power management or however they want to talk about? We talked about the HUD. We talked about weapons. We definitely talked with TDL about the, you know, how effective and different low flying is. Shields, we haven't touched on a ton. Maybe a little bit about just a single bubble, but
actually bring up the shields. I was having this conversation before jumping over here. I absolutely love the fact that a Merlin can now kill an 890 if you have like 4 or 5 hours to spare. Because obviously going with the grouping of weapons, this is so healthy for the game, where instead of somebody flying around in a big ship thinking they're invincible, there is going to be now a situation where if you go land your 890 and you go into a cave and you're in that cave for like 2 or 3 hours, there could be somebody with like a Merlin going, oh, I'm gonna get that big kill, boys. I'm gonna get that big kill.
I've been talking about this for years. I've talked about this on my stream, and some people have been like, no, man, you know, if I got an 890 or an Idris and we're in a battle, then screw the guys in light fighters. Like,
no,
somebody in a smaller ship should never feel useless, right? Just because you've rocked up to a battle, right, and the other team doesn't have light fighters, should you just be sat there being completely useless? No, you should be able to do something. I'm not saying an Arrow or a Gladius or a Merlin, whatever, a Buccaneer should be able to one-shot an Idris, right? But I want to at least feel like I'm contributing to the fight, even if it's a minuscule amount. I want to do something.
Exactly, yeah.
What
another thing quickly to go up here.
if it couldn't.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It almost
Yeah.
felt like
Exactly. The Merlin.
Go ahead.
If you're
Mike,
like fighting, say, two Connies versus two Connies, that you want it where your Merlin that deploys can actually do something towards the shields. You know, it could in 313 to agree, but you can now use it for bigger ships, and that's so important that you don't just go and spend your credit card money or your in-game money and you go, hey, I'm in an 890, nobody can touch me now. Oh, fuel doesn't cost me much, who cares? I'll just reclaim my ship. I'll just go and do cargo running. Nobody can destroy me. And now it's like, well, you can get destroyed now.
yeah,
You can't hide behind a paywall.
yeah, it's I would say that's one of the things that I do call the game pay to win occasionally, and there are elements where I think it is sort of that way, but have been very happy and very like just feeling very good about the direction that they've been going with things like reputation. They even mentioned in a post that there's going to be ships locked behind reputation, things like that. That it does seem to take away from elements of those the pay to win things that just don't look good. It's not a good look for CIG. It's not a good look for Star Citizen a lot of the
I
time,
wouldn't say
right? For a new player.
it's paid to win. It's
Yeah, I
more
agree.
paid to progress and also paid to survive. But obviously, 314 changes that.
Yeah.
You still have the paid to progress, but I think the paid to survive is gone now. If somebody is floating around in a hammerhead by themselves, they're missing out on all the bonuses that now comes with it. And again, two fighters, or say for example, you're in a hammerhead by yourself, somebody comes along with a mantis, somebody comes along with an arrow, you're dead. You can't survive that. You will die. But obviously it's going to take a wee while to chew through the shields.
Yeah, help me out a little bit with that, because this isn't something I've tried yet. What is that experience like? Because you said if you have like 4 to 5 hours, a mantis can kill the 890 or whatever, or not a mantis. I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter.
Merlin,
the Merlin.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah, it will take a long time for it to do that. What is that experience like? Because I know size 3 shields have big health pools. For the people who are listening who may not know, they're not in Wave 1. How are these larger ships acting differently from these smaller shield bubbles, like shields down almost instantly that we have now?
Personally, I kind of the only experience that I have, and I'll say this quickly and then shut up, is taking out hammerheads with like the gladius. And I would say, for me, I kind of feel like it's a little bit too easy at the moment, but I think that's just a balance thing.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess just describe.
We
how it
all know
currently
that right
works.
now all the shields are exactly the same stats. We have no difference in shields. We don't have any military components that are working. If anyone doesn't know this, you can put an FR on. It's the same as a rampart or anything like that. They're the exact same stats. So it's hard to see where it will go once you actually have bigger buffers. But again, if you're floating around in a hammerhead by yourself and you come across a gladius or somebody that can hold you down, then yeah, you should lose it. I mean, what the hell are you doing flying around by yourself?
I guess what
but
I'm
if you've got
asking
full
is,
gunners, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is how are the health pool or the shield or whatever acting differently? Because how we do it in the smaller ship is we just push our capacitor towards shields and it instantly recharges. Is that not what happens with the larger ships now? Because if you have that time, is it just
right? So the larger ships don't. No ship in the game now regens their shield in combat. It's all gone. And CIG have stated that this is how it's staying. They're not going to have it where you regen in combat. If you get away from combat, your shields will obviously regen ridiculously. And what they'll do is probably have like shields might be more ballistic resistance, but you lose your HP pool or higher to energy. You know what I'm saying? Like they can do it that way by tweaking it. Somebody mentioned all this will change when armor's in. CIG actually might not even add an armor. What they can do now with shields is a bit like Elite Dangerous, and what I've described is you have a standard shield, a buffer shield, and then you could have like lower ones that are higher resistance. So maybe you prefer buffer, maybe you prefer just standard, which is like an in-between, and then you've got the higher resistance shields. This means that they don't have to add an armor. They just make it where you can tank ballistics with your shield better or something like that. There's many things they could do with it.
Plus you-
And I think that's
Oh, sorry.
much more healthier than the thing. What I would actually say is I would like to see the larger ships have a bubble as well. I don't think these face things really works that well. Just give it where
I disagree.
the bigger ships.
I disagree
Like
as well.
capitals- No,
Because
like,
I
I'm getting to
personally,
the point where
I,
if we just-
sorry.
Just let me finish.
Mike's killing me
But
because
you can make it where
Mike
the
does this thing
shields
where he
have-
pauses for a second and you think he's done, but he's not.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Right. So take away the shield faces, but obviously make it where like sides 3, 4 have a lot more HP, but they could make it where the resistances are much higher than the smaller thing. You know, so you still have that whole idea of just one bubble. It makes it easier for them to balance out where it's one system for everything. But the shields on like size 3 or capital could have much higher resistances, which means it takes a lot longer to actually chew through the shields. I don't like the idea where when you're in combat with somebody, especially in space, in a big ship, and all they have to do is just roll their ship to get their shields back because you literally can't hit the gap. I think it's really bad, personally, in the game, and that's all.
What do you think, boys?
Aaron.
Because I disagree with him as well.
Am I allowed to talk?
Yes, of course.
Sorry. I disagree, but only because I think thinking of it like that is thinking of it from the mindset that the pilot is responsible for the shields. I think, you know, if we're talking about an Idris or a Javelin, I really like the idea of there being a role for somebody which is shield management, whether it be, you know, pumping power to a particular shield quadrant or, you know, adjusting some sort of power balance so it adjusts the shield modulation or something. I don't know, I'm thinking Star Trek-y, but I do like there being a game there for maybe not an engineer, but for somebody who's responsible, a co-pilot who's responsible for managing the shields.
Well, look at it this way. Like, instead of it being bases, why don't you have it where, like, say, for example, you're in a capital ship with 2 shield gens, that one is an outer bubble and then an inner bubble. So once the first gen goes down, you've got the second gen, and you've got to hopefully try and divert power to get that first gen up, sort of thing. You could have it that way. The whole idea of faces, just I don't think it really works in the game, with just how we fly around and stuff.
Yeah, I kind of get your point because, you know, if for example, me fighting the hammerheads the last couple of days, all I've done is circle strafe them, right? So a shield quadrant
Yeah.
actually doesn't help that much. That said, though, I have noticed when I've been fighting them solo, I do concentrate on one quadrant more than the rest. And once I've got
Yeah.
that one shield quadrant down, I stay in that zone. And the advantage of that is, obviously, when I'm talking about fighting hammerheads in PvP and Star Citizen, we're talking about a solo player hammerhead, not somebody who actually has turrets, right? So if they
Yeah.
actually had turret gunners, then me being forced to engage, the only reason I think I could have taken them down that quickly was because there was nobody shooting me. Now, if I was concentrating on that downed shield facing, I would have been stuck in a very small area, which would have made me a really easy target to hit. And if they had had turret gunners, it would have forced me to keep circle strafing, which meant that it would have taken me a hell of a lot longer to actually chew through all of the shields. You
Sure.
know, so
Can
I
I
don't know.
jump in
I
for a sec
do
too
like
on
the
it?
idea of quadrants.
Yeah, I also do, and from the, like, kind of piggybacking off of you, Moist, is the idea of, I don't know, I played a lot of Chris Roberts games when I was a kid, and one of the things that I think might be the problem here is you guys have mentioned the Hammerhead a couple times. Believe it or not, this ship might be too small for this scenario, but something like a Xenothreat
Yeah,
event
maybe.
or something like that, like, let's tie in, and we'll jump into the missiles section next. The idea of dump firing missiles. The way Wing Commander games worked was you took down the shield, and then you shot the back of the ship, because if you shot the back where the engines were of these large capital ships, that's where the damage was the most effective. So you would actually destroy them easier, right? And Chris is not doing anything new. It just looks better. All these games, everything that we have in this game is a fancier version of what I played when I in the 90s for the most part, right?
Fidelity.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're trying to go for here. So for me, I think the quadrant matters, and this is something that neither of you guys mentioned in the sense of both of you also described it as a solo pilot against a large ship. Now imagine going against something like a Javelin or an Idris. You would as a group have to target maybe one shield face and then dumbfire missiles into certain sections, something like that. So from that perspective,
Yep.
I see that's where I sort of disagree with TDL a little bit and was like, I think I would like the shield faces, but maybe we take it to that level of above some of these ships that it's more realistic for a single fighter to kill, or maybe that's like a balance thing that needs to be addressed. But I also didn't think of what you said, Moist, about the turrets and stuff and making it a little bit more challenging.
I mean, you could do with capitals is you could actually make it a little bit more interesting. Where, say, for example, take your 2 gens. 1 gen is a bubble, like what we've got just now with size 1 and 2. Then the 2nd gen, say your ship actually has 2nd gen, you could then have it where it has the facing on top of it. And all you have to do is you allow somebody to move that facing around to give you a bit of added protection stuff. But if somebody nails that down, they can then hit your gen that does that, and then you're down to just bubble defense after that. So that brings in a little bit more gameplay for the person, like Moist Noodle was thinking. Like if I was in a ship and I was going to be moving my shields around, I'd be like, shield.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is engaging gameplay. But if you had like where panic was like, oh, your shield's going down, right? Well, we've got the final gen. Get somebody on that to kind of like repair it or something like that. That would actually be interesting.
It's your oh shit moment.
Taldrin in Twitch chat actually mentioned something that I was going to touch on, which is with the new form-fitting shields, facings don't really make sense anyway. And that's true, especially with the bigger the ships get, it makes less and less sense. So kind of a mixture of facings, and maybe your suggestion, Michael, which is you have, rather than having, well, you can still have the shield generator, right? But you have shield emitters across the ship.
Yeah.
Right. We might be making this could tie into the engineering gameplay that they're adding, but you know, a shield emitter covers a particular area. And if you know, say they're sub-targeting your quantum drive, you pump more power into the emitter.
Yeah. I like that
section of the ship, right? Might be the
that
way
would be
that
more
you do
fun,
it.
Yeah.
I just the idea of having the faces worked originally because it was meant to be where when Star Citizen started off, you had forward, you had up. You know, you didn't really have a center shield, so to speak. It was just a weird way of doing it. The faces just, for me, just feels massively off with how they've got the new shield tech looking. Where it would be nicer if you had, like you said, a quadrant of the area, or it's still a bubble, but what you can do is just harden that sort of area. If you're getting pelted damage, somebody in the shield room could be like, right, well, I'm going to increase the resistance in that quadrant of shield. But it can still come down on the other side and stuff, and then maybe a delay to move that harden around. That would be a very reactive shield as well, which would be easy for CIG to do. They wouldn't actually need emitters around the ship. They could just make it where space magic and do it that way.
All right, I think we're gonna shift.
It brings a lot more gameplay.
Absolutely, I think this was a cool little, imagine conversation a little bit.
Imagine,
nice. I think we get somewhere with it. I think that was kind of neat. Good feedback. But let's shift a little bit towards missile operator mode. We'll start with you, Moist. What do you think?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not a huge missile user. Like I do appreciate riding a big size 9 into battle, but I'm all about the guns. Somebody brought up a really good point earlier, which is it would be really nice to be able to drop missile racks and have like either maybe ammo pods or have fuel pods, or in typical British fashion, beer bombs, right? Just be able to fix big beer barrels under the wings would be awesome. That's something we used to do to Spitfires in World War II, by the way. But one of my favorite changes for missiles is actually being able to dumbfire missiles. I'm really happy that they made that change. And I have
Yeah.
a funny feeling that one of the reasons that they changed shields like they did was because of the way splash damage works with missiles as well.
How does it
But
work?
I really like missile operator mode.
How does it work now?
Well, there was always an issue in previous previous builds where it wasn't spreading the damage from missiles properly across your shield quadrants. So essentially, it was nuking one particular shield facing and kind of screwing you. So, but I think so essentially what they've done with missiles now, missiles they use IFCS, and it's split into stages, right? So I think it's the launch stage, the cruise stage, and the intercept stage. And I don't know if I'm using the right terminology here, but I kind of feel like the intercept stage is a little crazy at the moment, because I'm not as good of a dark flyer. I'm not as good of a flyer as a DarkLaw, so I don't know if he's how he's coping with it. But right now, countermeasures aren't working, so it's incredibly difficult to avoid missiles right now. I can still do it, but their intercept phase is so fast that basically what you have to do is called transversal velocity, right? So think of it like you're at a shooting range with ducks going backwards and forwards. It's harder to hit a duck that's going backwards and forwards than hit a duck that's not moving, right? So if you see a missile coming towards you, transversal velocity means you basically travel a 90-degree angle away from the missile, if that makes sense. And then it's more likely to miss you. And I think you only have to do that twice. So once it's passed you once, pay attention to which direction it's coming from again, and you basically do the same thing. And then the second time round, it's run out of fuel, or it's lost your lock, whatever. But I think a lot of people, I think you should still be able to evade a missile. I'm not saying it should be easy, but you should still be able to do it. And right now,
you can evade missiles without counters. That's something I've been trying out all last night and a little bit today. It actually depends on what type of missile is coming after. So, say for example, somebody is using like an IR missile, obviously goes after your heat. If you actually drop your heat down, it can't follow you. It forgets where you're going. Certain situation. Yeah, countermeasures are completely broken. They were working previous patch, but now they're just doing nothing. But you can dodge them at the last second. Intercept speeds, I would actually say, I would agree with you on, are just slightly, like, you need to have insane reaction to be able to dodge at the last second. It's very much like where missiles are kill shots now. And I don't think they should be kill shots, but not like, if I get this missile off kind of thing. If I would like it where maybe the precision of the missile would go up if you actually hold the lock, like you go into missile operator mode and you fire a missile and you actually keep looking at somebody with the missile operator mode, kind of guiding it in, then I could understand the precision. But when you're locking it and then changing the weapons, you're losing all that system, that kind of mini game to it, and then it becomes where the missiles are just ridiculously
essentially what's going to end up happening. What's going to end up happening is that, if you have two people, you're going to have one person just spamming missiles from a range, which is fine, but I think it shouldn't necessarily be what's the term that I'm looking for? Like, they're trying to control the area, right? I've forgotten the term. And they're trying to get you to fly evasive by firing missiles at you, rather than attacking the person who's actually dogfighting them. Area of denial, thank you, Heartsy. It's about denying them the area and keeping them moving. Whereas right now, it feels like, that second person can just fire missiles at the person and they're most likely actually going to die.
You actually kind of get around it using certain things. It doesn't work right now because countermeasures are broken, but beforehand, you can just keep dumping flares and people can't get locked on you in that stage, which is fine because, again, you're creating heat around and
you have a limited number of flares, right?
Is the countermeasure issue a patch where it stopped again? This most recent one?
The latest.
In our
patch.
current patch just now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the previous one
Beforehand
was
it wasn't.
okay, right?
It was working, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It was working.
It's
You could
probably
counter
just
missile.
some bug because
It's just a thing.
yeah, because I had no issues. Like I felt like I was like having a completely different experience than you guys. I actually didn't really fly today. I was in the operator modes and turret seats all day when I was playing today. But so I didn't even notice. But I had no issues avoiding them. It was literally just like turn 15, 20 degrees away from the missile, fire a flare, no matter CS, IR, EM, and it was fine. Or what are they called? Decoys now?
Yeah, this patch is definitely broken.
Yeah, this patch is a little weird, so maybe they played with something and they'll have to dial it back.
Yeah.
But
I mean, what I would actually like to see with the missiles is more where like a bit more information with what kind of missile is being sent towards you. Because right now, you know, if countermeasures work, you can just keep dumping flares and eventually that will clear the lock.
Yeah.
What I would like to see is more of like a skill check where when somebody is locking a tone onto you, you get that information. It's like somebody is about to send a size 2. You've then got to configure your flares, counter this, instead of just worrying about dodging or just keep jumping. This would be a fantastic gameplay loop. Because right now you can just I've got a macro on my joystick now which just basically keeps flaring every second because that is literally the way to dodge missiles right now. I want it where I'm like, oh,
I agree with
size 3 is coming in, configure 4. Oh god, it's one of those ones. I don't have enough flares. What am I gonna do? You know.
Before we had enunciate panels, the game told you what type of missile was coming after you, right?
Yeah, it was a big ass thing right in the middle of the screen. A flame. A radar, or I don't remember what EM looked like, but yeah.
And it would be nice, like, obviously we have an unseed panel, so maybe, you know, I know some people think the new HUD is already too cluttered, but maybe we have a small icon somewhere that shows you, or maybe it's a different audible tone for each type of missile. But it would be nice to have something. Because like Michael said, all you have to do right now is just keep dumping flares.
Don't you run out of flares really quick?
Yeah, but I mean, like, in say for example, it's a 1v1 or it's like a 2v1 or something like that. You can take out the first person pretty fast, masking. Like, generally they've balanced out the amount of flares. Flares and chaff. It just
decoy and noise.
It's a good amount because when you look at like a ship like a Hammerhead or like a Hercules, they have humongous amount of ability to counter. I think it's like 90 decoys on a Hercules, and it's got like 2 or 3 deployments on it, so it can literally angel flare, which is pretty impressive actually. But you know what I mean? Like literally, I think there's plenty. It's just it needs to be a scenario based where it's not just right. I'm going to just dump 1 flare for this kind of missile. It needs to be where you know what's coming towards you, so you can kind of counter it and play that game. And then if you counter it, you can get. If say for example, I know somebody's locking a size 3 EM missile, and I'm like, I know the exact cocktail to do that. I deploy those flares. The missile lock goes. At that stage, the person's like, oh, I can't fire a missile. What do I do? As I'm already approaching to come in for gun range. And that's where, you know, they've got their gunners or depending on what ship and stuff like that. So it needs to be just a little bit more than fire and forget.
I feel this is such a weird balancing act that they've tried to have to do over the years, because literally locking on a missile now is actually, I feel like it's almost easier than it was before. It was switch modes, it automatically locks, and then you press a button, right? And the solution that you're trying to resolve for that with the like, all right, I know which missile it is and all that type, seems way more complicated than it is for that player to lock on the missile. And they're in this weird thing where it's like, okay, it's easy to lock on and fire, but it's also easy to avoid. And it's like, well, now it's kind of pointless. Why would we use them? That's probably why Moist just likes to use guns. Probably same with you, TDL, right? So it's like, they're in this weird place where like missiles are just kind of they're stupid, almost, is what it feels like to me.
Again, another thing.
I also can't hit an NPC with one to save my life.
What they could do is where missile operator mode or missiles in general could be where you have to keep the tone
Yeah.
for them to actually hit.
Yeah, I agree.
Keep them on the screen.
100%, I want that.
Keep it on the
Yep.
screen, yeah. So instead of just quickly changing to missile operator mode, getting the green tone, firing the missile, changing back to weapons, you actually have to hold that tone for maybe 10 seconds or the initial green tone is for the missile to get a bearing of what direction it has to go in. But you have to then maybe switch to, like, I don't know, a purple tone or whatever for it to get that final lock for it to actually hit.
They seem like
And
they
that
have
means somebody in
the tools.
missile operator mode. Oh yeah, they could easily do this.
Because
they could easily do it. I
there's
mean,
a
the missile
signal
has a
strength
free
now,
stage
right?
already.
Yeah, well, it also has the
Yeah.
strength in
Yeah.
which, like, your lock is more effective now. Because you can see the green little dots are filling in, and then sometimes they go down. It seems like it's a possibility that they can use that to tie this in some way at some point. But I think we'd probably all be in somewhat of an agreement that missiles still aren't in a very good place. Would we? Is that kind of the overall
No, I actually
tone?
think they're in a really good place. I think it just
Okay.
needs a little bit of tweaking for the final stage where it goes into its hypersonic kind of chase and kill you kind of mode. Obviously, we'll see when counters are actually working again. I think that just needs to be toned down. But yeah, I think to bring in a more skill kind of check it would be nice to see where missile operator mode for other ships that are like Gladiator, Retaliator, if they're wanting to get a big boy bang and a direct hit, they have to hold the lock and keep that tone going through, sending that signal to the missile, making it harder where it means you have to counter it more or panic a bit more, because again, those ships will literally become useless. Keep
Yeah,
mucking
I mean,
around with
imagine
missiles
hearing
and stuff,
that
and it's
tone.
always been the case where.
Imagine hearing that
Yeah,
tone
exactly.
if you're the
That's the
pilot
thing.
that the missile is chasing, right? It's like, oh shit, they're still locked onto me. And then it goes into what Moy said about area denial, and then you're like, I have to focus on avoiding this missile, and that is all I'm doing right now. You know?
Yeah.
And then now you're a target for guns.
I said to CIG, I would love for it, like the Top Gun movie is the prime example of what I want missiles to be like. Where right now you have it where, like you said, you go into the circle and you get the tone and it's automatic. What I would love to see is that's fine for missile operator mode for like multi-crew, where you hold that circle and then you've got, as a multi-crew in a position, you have to hold that tone, the missile to hit. But for a fighter, I would actually like it where you've got to keep crosshair over and you've got to overlap the two things before you can get a green tone. This whole waiting for it to go around in fighters is just very bad gameplay, personally. It needs to be more of a skill check at that area. Make it where got it for fighters certain way, and then for multi-crew it's a more in-depth thing, so they can actually play around with it more.
Sure. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we talk about missiles, but I'm sort of want to show this clip first, and I didn't bring it up. But
Can I just quickly bring up something that brings us back to guns for a second? I meant to mention it earlier, but
please.
It's actually regarding sounds. I'm imploring anyone at CIG, please speak to the right person. Can we get rid of ammo low, ammo empty? We don't need the voice for that. Yeah, for ballistic, say ammo low, ammo empty, but we don't need it for lasers as well. And can we also please, because we already have a chirp sound to let us know when the ammo is low, and another chirp sound to let us know when it's empty. Can we also get a chirp sound when it has fully recharged? Because I don't want to, when I'm concentrating on fighting someone, I don't want to be staring at my magazines, right?
Yeah.
It would be nice to have the audible alert there so I know when to fire again. As it stands, the way, if they don't implement this, what I'm going to do is use joystick key or joystick gremlin and set a timer so I know how long it takes for it to recharge, and just set it so when I let go of my trigger, after a set amount of time, it gives me an audible alert.
Whilst we're
right?
asking CIG for sound, can we please have it where we can make the guns separate, engines separate, and the audio option, please? I want to hear my engines over the massive amount of wind that's blowing past me, you know? Or I want to be able to hear somebody's shots in the distance, but not hear, the engine's too hot, Yogi, Colson, it's too hot. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
Please
it is.
separate the sounds.
It is pretty annoying. I think you can't remove the sound. I know you're basically asking for the chirp instead, but you can turn on the verbosity, turn that down, right? And then you don't hear anything at all, or is it no matter what?
No, it's the voice, right? So the chirp I'm fine with. That's all I want, right? Is just the sound effect. What I don't want is the voice constantly saying ammo low, ammo empty,
Yeah,
ammo low, ammo empty every couple of seconds.
Yeah,
It's
chat
so
just spams
hyper
it while you're
frustrating.
fighting. Chat just starts
And also
spamming.
it's like, you know, they want us to use VoIP, but as Michael said, you in a battle scenario, especially if you're in Atmo, you can't hear VoIP over the sound of air rushing by you. So why would you ever use VoIP? I'm just going to turn the game down and use Gilded. Exclamation mark Gilded.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. But
Well,
yeah,
that killed that conversation. Sorry, Mike.
no, it's okay. I'm glad you brought it up. It is
Yeah.
something like I think we should go through all the little bits of feedback that we would give in these situations. I think overall everything's really cool. Little tweaks would make things a lot more interesting and better. Now, this might be a short conversation. This section, you guys, to me, both seem like single-seater pilots. I am.
Funny, actually,
Not
no. I'm
necessarily,
actually
actually.
want to be a capital pilot.
There you go. But for me, like anytime I've watched your content, mostly single-seater. But I'm curious what you guys think about operator modes, turret improvements.
Really excited.
It's this
So
is
good.
So
this is
So
amazing.
good.
I think it was 312. Most of 312 I actually spent multi-crewing in a Mercury Star Runner with Space Cutlet and crew.
Yeah.
So essentially I was piloting. I didn't have it would be so nice to have somebody in the co-pilot seat, you know. And you know, having two people in turrets and then having Cutlet and a second person in a little beep beep car in the cargo hold, and we'd stealth in, hot drop people near miners, and then sneak up on them. And then if people actually turned up to do combat, you know, me on the guns and having two people on turrets was actually quite a, you know, it was a significant amount of damage that we were dropping on people that was 6 size 3s, you know, even against fighters.
Yeah.
So in terms of, I actually think going forward, I will probably spend more time in multi-crew ships, but what I've been waiting for is operator modes, right?
Yeah.
All I've done.
So I'm pretty much
Cutlass,
yeah.
Tana. We tried the I can't think of the name right now. Carrick, a few minutes before the stream started. So we've been like, that's all I've done. I haven't done much, just like single-seater capacitor stuff, and I definitely haven't done any PvP. I've just been all multi-crew, and it's still there still is no point to doing missions. There's still no point to doing anything in the game, but it's certainly a hell of a lot more fun, where a turret actually matters. As mostly single-seater pilots, how do you feel about these turrets? Like,
I think
scary.
it's good. I'm like, the last thing I would chirp on about with 330 is you literally have one ship, one set of weapons going in, and you kill everything. It's boring. Why would you have 7 people in a hammerhead over 7?
Yeah.
314 kind of changes that up, gives it a little bit more unique things. Yes, the hammerhead needs to be tankier and weapons maybe have more range and stuff like that. They can tweak that, but it starts us going off where you can fly that ship around solo and you'll be okay to a certain degree, and then you'll come across a group and you'll be wishing that you had all your gunners and missile operator mode. And when they bring in engineering and all that pipe stuff that they showed off at the start of the year or last year it just means that multi-crew has a position. You know, I want to be flying around in the Redeemer when it comes out. Everyone's like Ion Inferno. I think they'll be a lot of fun, but the Redeemer brings in a little bit more. You know, you've got 2-man turrets, then you've got the pilot that can do stuff, you've got the remote control stuff. It just, again, it brings in more stages to the game that we need right now. I completely agree with you. Like, there's no point with like missions and stuff, but if CIG would bring something back into the game where players could maybe fight over or interact over instead of the whole kind of like mission stuff, I think more people would do multi.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah.
The
It's good. Like, I like the idea where a turret has the bonus, you know. So say for example you're in uh like a Talon that can use the rhinos. You've got limited amount of shots, but then you put those same weapons on the hammerhead, and you've got like 180 shots per gun or
Yep.
80 shots per gun, and that's awesome. That means you can actually lay waste, or keep the flak going until other people recharge. Again, it just brings a lot more into it. So for singles, like right now I'm single Caesar. I like the idea that if I come across a hammerhead with six gunners, or however many, I should not be able to kill it one bit. I shouldn't even be able to get close to it. I should be vaporized as its role was designed to do so.
Yeah. I don't know, Moist. Do you want to add anything to that aspect? I'm gonna have one more question to ask.
I didn't
you
listen
guys.
to any of it because I was too busy memeing with Twitch chat. What were we talking about?
Oh, it's fine.
Sorry.
I'll ask the question anyway. Really, it's more just
Uh-huh.
giving you a chance if you had anything else you wanted to add, which is probably not if that's the case. The only thing that bothered me, and I don't know if this is a good thing because it might be a little bit too overpowered. The other seats in a ship cannot play with your power management and capacitors.
What, you don't want
think that will
or
come.
I
that-
do. You can't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's,
I think that'll be.
I think
Yeah, I think.
when
I think. Sorry, go on. You talk.
yeah.
You guys are in the same
You totally-
room. How is this happening?
Yeah. Shut up, mice. All right, I'm
Sorry.
talking now. All right, I'm talking.
All right, Dad. Sorry.
I think when they bring in the old engineering part, it's going to actually work like that. I think they're still working around, because there was one time where like you could have somebody in like a Constellation co-pilot chair and they could actually move the shields and the power around, but they
Yeah.
took that out for a long time. So I think they're just waiting for the new system to come in, and then you'll have that. But I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I would
yeah.
love to, where you're the pilot, you've got somebody doing your engineering, where you can say to them on comms or VoIP, I need more power to weapons. They'll be like, right. And then it's like somebody else is like, oh, I'm running out of weapons. I need more power to shields. You know,
And you're like,
it's
shut
a
up,
nice
the shields
an
are
element
down.
that
I
you can have.
gotta keep the shields up. And then you're just all yelling
Exactly,
at each other.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
gonna be great.
Yeah,
That's what we want.
exactly.
We just
Yeah,
wanna
it brings a
yell at
lot
each
of
other.
moves as well.
Yeah.
But I think they're generally waiting for the new engineering system, pipes or whatever it's called, to go online beforehand.
Okay. I literally, like, to go back on what Moy said earlier in the show, I had straight Star Wars vibes, just multi-crewing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. This is pretty much all I had up to this point. So what I'll say before we, kind of go wherever is we'll probably keep you guys for maybe another like 15 or so, 10, 15 minutes. We don't have any callers in the queue.
Nope.
That's like kind of the normal thing that we do here, but I never really brought it up to anybody. If anybody wants to come on the show and has any questions they want to ask Moist or Dark or not me, because I'm not going to answer any of this stuff because I have no idea what's going on, but to have a little bit of a conversation or anything that you want to touch on about what they did, feel free. You can pop in the green room. Unless your name's Pakilla, then you can't come in because he's just gonna make a joke. But yeah, it's you guys can pop in and be a part of the show if you want. But yeah, I guess is there anything that you two really want to touch?
Yes.
So?
Can we talk about performance? Can
Yeah.
we talk about how obviously this isn't going to be for everybody, but for me, and I've noticed it with quite a few friends, frame rate for me is incredible right now in 314. It's obviously still in PTU, things can change, but
As they do.
sitting at Port Olisar getting 100 FPS, like that blows my mind. And I'm not even talking about just staring out into space. I mean, even looking at the structure, I have to look away from Crusader. But and I think it's not necessarily about I don't think it's necessarily a case that the frame rates have just increased. But it feels to me that even if you are, again, obviously everybody's mileage is going to vary, but 30 FPS now feels to me to be smoother than 30 FPS in 313. And I think what it comes down to is frame times. So the length of time that a frame is staying on your screen now feels more consistent than before, where, you know, one frame would stay up for a short amount of time, then the next one would stay up for double the amount of time. It'd be all over the place and it felt super stuttery. Even at lower frame rates, it still feels smoother to me than it did in 313. So I don't know if other people are necessarily, I'm not saying everybody's getting 100 FPS at PO, but generally it feels smoother to me.
Yeah, the performance is nuts. The one thing that I always love when somebody comes into a channel is like, Star Citizen's a scam. Star Citizen's going nowhere. It's like, if you were actually here, like, I don't know, 14, 15, 16, to what the performance is now, it's just insane. The amount of tech that goes into the game, the performances, microtech is, you know, started off like, what, 5, 10, FPS, and now it's like 60, 70 depending on server and stuff like that. So it's incredible. I think if CIG can actually nail the server tech, the flying around with 60, 70 FPS shouldn't be a problem after that. Because I was on Orison the other day. I had 80 FPS at Orison because I was the only one on the server. It felt good.
I'm getting like 30. I have an 8-year-old PC, and I agree kind of what Moise was saying is it does, even though my frames haven't changed, things do feel smoother in a way. And yeah, maybe that's what it is. So like my frames literally haven't improved, as they should not. I have like DDR3 RAM, and like it's like my PC is like far gone at this point. But so I won't blame anything on any of that other than myself, but the idea of it just in general feeling smoother currently in the PTU is true. But in my experience, that is a typical PTU experience, especially wave 1. And then the more people we get in, it gradually gets worse and worse and worse. So hopefully,
we'll
right,
see how it goes.
We'll have to see. Yeah.
It's definitely going to degrade. Like
I'm getting less than 10. It is. I will no longer go to Orison until I either build a new PC, but I'm also not going to Orison. Let me know what you guys think about this. I will refuse to go because the amount of time it takes to leave is insane. I'm not going there.
It does.
Screw that place. If I am not going there unless I'm staying there for a week.
It also takes a long time. If you logged out there, it takes a long time to load the game into there because there are so many entities there. If you open up display info 1, but again, you can see it loading like all the entities.
Version, though.
Yeah,
down
that's,
the line,
that's true. And I think a lot of that comes down to the lighting. They talked about the challenges that they had with the lighting at Orison. So obviously that'll get better with time. And they're working on the Gen 12 Vulkan stuff as well. So I'm sure after that stuff has come online, it'll improve further as well. One day, imagine. Yeah.
Actually, like we're bringing up like distances and stuff. I had a conversation with Caitlin the other day, a couple weeks ago. I personally can't stand the warping through atmosphere. I hate it. I hate the idea that you can literally just leave a planet, moon, as easy as just now. I actually miss it when you had to go up to a certain height. All they have to do is kind of like make those heights less or something like that. But it feels very cheap where you just literally go 2K up on the moon and you just warp right.
Let's have a video game about flying spaceships and not fly the spaceships, right? I never understood why they lowered the I do remember because you guys both probably remember the whole drama that happened a couple of years ago when people were complaining about how long it took to fly in and out of Atmo, right?
Don't tell them,
and that's
guys.
when they changed it. What now?
I think I was probably a big
oh yeah, we know. That's why I said you were a dickhead years ago. Like I remember you ranting about it and I was like, this absolute clown, like can't play the game, spins around.
Yeah, I'm a clown. I suck at the game, whatever. But the whole idea is, listen, dude, this is Star Citizen, okay? You die. Then you press a button,
Yeah.
get up out of your chair,
Yeah, I
go
get
to a
it.
train, go to a
Also-
bus, drive a car, ride a bike, then get in your ship, take 10 minutes to get out of atmosphere, quantum travel for 45 minutes, and that was literally the game at the time. So, like, that's the thing. It's
I know.
How long does
like-
it need to
just play
take for me to
something
get
else.
into a fight and play a game? Like, what the hell? You know? So that's where my
To be
mentality
fair, like
was
back
with
in the
that.
back in the olden days, I almost get it, right? Because the flight model was very, there wasn't much to flying. The game was crashing a hell of a lot more than it does now, and it just wasn't very exciting. But now, it's a lot different
The thing-
back then, and it would be nice to actually fly
Here's
the
one
ship.
thing that I will put, especially towards you, Mike, because obviously you're the one that got this ruined in the game.
Yes.
So, if you can leave atmosphere at a certain height, like Orton and stuff like that, cool beans. But what do you feel about where you actually have to travel in through the atmosphere? Because CIG did all this wonderful new visuals on entry, and nobody uses it. What would you feel about that instead? Leaving is faster, but obviously coming through atmosphere, you have to actually slow boat through to get that effect that you're traveling from space into the planet.
Yeah, I mean, like when I really like was championing that change, the thing that I was championing was I really like scienced it too, and took Earth and said this is the atmospheric density of planet Earth, and where, like, how high up it is when the densities are so irrelevant that it doesn't even really matter. I just think that not like we launch in at about 25,000 kilometers above the ground currently. I don't understand why that it can't, like, because I'm actually very comfortable with the amount of the distance that we are away from the location that we quantum traveled to. We're about 25k up and about 20 or 25k away from that location. So the idea of the amount of time that it takes, I think, is sufficient. But I do agree with you. When I was championing getting rid of that, that took away this like really epic moment in the game. But also, you got to remember, is that epic moment only really feels epic now because it doesn't happen that often. But if it happens every time, you're gonna kind of, or meters, whatever, like the distance, I
think the burn as you come in will always feel epic to me.
Yeah, true, and the fact
I
that
think
it gives your position
with what
away
Mike's
as
saying
well is important. But time matters, guys.
What
like,
CIG could do is the quantum. Oh yeah, I completely understand that.
Yeah.
But the point being with what I was kind of like talking with Caitlin is that the whole exploring the game goes out the window when you're 20 kilometers down to someplace, land. Then you go 2 kilometers up, warp to an OM, warp to the next moon, down 20 kilometers, and it's you
but
just
these are
take away some of
locations. Right, these are common known locations,
that's true. What I would like is that maybe they made it 30 kilometers, and what to do is, as you're going round and into atmosphere, they add in the fire effect when you're warping.
Sure, I'm fine with pulling back just slightly. Pulling back just slightly, adding those effects, because I think it's really good. It gives your position away. Imagine as like PvPers, right, or pirates, as a and as a miner, it would be amazing to like constantly kind of peeking over your shoulder and is looking up, and you see that flash and that burn, and you're like,
can we also get some audio?
I'm out of here. Yeah. Like can
we get the sound
sonic
of
booms?
Somebody quantuming in? Like, I think we're all in agreement that the audio of not quantum warping in Star Trek is awesome, right? Like when a ship kind of warps in, it's the coolest sound in the world. Can we get some of that, please, and have it be kind of loud?
I mean, I'm completely fine with certain warps. The 2 kilometer warp annoys me the most because I feel that's just way too small. So I would like it where
moons are I would say a problem in comparison to planets. Planets feel good, moons don't.
I would like
definitely
Orison.
They've got to change that. That's mental.
That's a joke.
Just get that platform thing further up in the sky into the clouds. Like it's.
I would also like to be able to. Sorry to talk over you, but to dial in how I want to choose how far in I warp to, right? So what I'm saying is, sometimes I
Eve,
might want to be a little bit more stealthy. So I don't want to jump straight
Yeah.
into that point because it's so. If I see somebody, say an OM, and I see them quantuming a direction, 9 times out of 10 I can work out which marker they're going to on the planet, right? And if I just jump to that marker, I jump on top of them. Now, what if they had the option to jump 20 kilometers earlier, right? So actually, I go straight to the marker, but they're 20 kilometers away, right? It would be nice to have, because the thing, especially if they add like a cool flash or some audio for a quantum, I might not want to quantum in so close so they hear that or see that, you know?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an
Especially
interesting
like with
balance.
what Mike was saying with like PvPers could see you coming. If you didn't, you saw maybe like a little flash, and you're like, that's nothing, and it was more dominant as you're coming over in the dark or
That
something.
dude's coming to me.
That would be incredible.
Oh
Yeah,
shit.
that dude's
know?
coming. Yeah, exactly.
It is when you see
yeah.
people quantuming, it's the coolest thing in the world, by the way. Now that
Yeah.
we can actually see it happening.
Yeah, it's
It's
true.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember the
Yeah.
time at which I was really bitching and complaining about this too. You had to leave. You had to leave Hurston. You had to get above 100.
Oh, yeah.
100,000 meters. So it was
Yeah.
just
And-
like,
and
I mean, this is
somebody-
ridiculous. And
Yeah,
this also
somebody
was when a
mentioned in
time
chat-
where quantum travel was significantly longer than it is now because we didn't have as many quantum
Yeah.
drives. They weren't dialed in. So
Yeah.
time was like really stolen from you back then.
Somebody made a really
Another
good
thing,
point, and
like-
it's something that I learned from Elite Dangerous, which is different planets have different atmospheric thicknesses.
Yeah.
So, you know, your ship is going to be
Yeah.
faster and slower, right? So sometimes it's going to take longer to get out of atmosphere.
Coming back to what Mike said about where you've got to get out of your bed, you've got to go and then get tram. It's the same thing in every single location. CIG, please. Next time you're building a city, think outside your meta box of spawning in your hab, going down the lift, getting into a tram, going to the airport. Why can't we have the bloody hab at the airport? I want to stay at the airport hotel. I don't want to go to the big fancy hotel in the middle of the city, please. Okay?
I think Orison
I don't need to go there.
I think Orison is by far their best design. You come out of your hab and there is more than just your hab there. You aren't at the airport, unfortunately, but you are. There is more to do than just your hab. That's nice. It is a short little plane ride to everywhere you need to go. I think as far as every landing zone went, I would give this one the best.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
But even like
it's the
tying
same
it back
formula.
to combat,
It's every
like,
location.
every time you die, it's like this whole episode just to get back.
Oh.
Now, the whole thing is persistence. A lot of changes coming in the future. I imagine most of us are going to be logging out in our ships because fuck all that shit at the landing zones. You go down to the landing
Yeah,
zones
exactly.
when you want to and when you need to, but most of the time we're probably going to be just hanging out in our ships. You go down to the landing zones to restock. That's what I imagine is going to be the case.
I want
mean,
my little farm. I want a little,
And get
I
an
want my little
endeavor.
outpost and space weed,
Yeah.
right? And to be that crazy guy sat on the porch waiting for Xylo
pledge.
to come and tell me that I'm banned.
I'm
Get
gonna
off my land,
ace to
Xylo.
your
just
facility.
pledge. You can have all that. You just got to pledge, dude.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Where can I
We
buy
can't
land?
pledge anymore.
Can I go on Robert Space
CIG
Industries and come and buy some
takes
land?
the ability to pay for land.
Yeah.
All right, are you guys
please.
ready for this? I don't know what's
Oh,
going to
God.
happen, but we're going to bring in Pawkilla, who is like a resident troll of my channel, but also I think he works in game development, definitely does play Star Citizen with me.
Can I talk about one more thing before we move on to calls?
Please, yeah, and this would be the only call,
Sure.
most likely.
Can we please, and this, I know people are going to be like, it's the PTU noodle. I'm talking about it anyway. Can we talk about the state of desync, please?
Yeah.
Because
Hmm.
since 3.10, I have been consistently saying every single patch, desync has got worse and worse. I actually sent you 2 links, Mike. So the first one is a single clip from 3.14, and the
have that one
second one is a post from Virgil on Spectrum.
Let me grab the post
it
from
is the
Virgil. I can't
PTU.
find my mouse, though.
Now, I remember saying back in like 3.10 PTU and 3.11 PTU and 3.12 PTU and 3.13 PTU mentioning the desync, and people were like, it's PTU noodle, it'll be fixed before it goes live, and surprise, surprise, it wasn't. And every single patch, the desync got worse and worse to a point where for most PvPers, it was unplayable in 3.13. And not only is it unplayable for PvPers in 3.13, but I'd say it's pretty bad for non-PvPers, because if you take a look at the clip, there's a great clip of somebody just approaching Port Olisar, coming in. By the way, can I point out that PvPers are still, after 9 years, the gameplay is still sitting at Port Olisar. This poor guy was just coming in to land at Port Olisar, and Space Cutlet killed him. But if you look on my screen, you can't see Space Cutlet. That's because on my client and this guy's client, Space Cutlet is somewhere else in the universe. But Space Cutlet is killing him.
Yeah, I
and
saw him at the
nothing he
bottom
can
right
do
of your
about it.
screen, very far away.
I had something like this last night, and it was freaking me out. Somebody was killing me. I was like, it's like a cheater or something like that. But then missiles were coming from a direction. I'm like, all right, so it can't be a cheater because it's over there. I go to the location, nobody's there. The missiles are still firing. I'm like, where are you? Where are you? Stop aiming.
This did happen in 3.13. But most of the desync in 3.13 was positional desync, so they wouldn't be facing in the right direction, or they would be slightly off from where you were firing, and occasionally you would have this happen. But you know, I've done a fair bit of, I wouldn't necessarily call it PvP, but me engaging other people in 3.14. It happens a significant amount of time now.
Yeah.
And you know, I know people are going to be like, it's the PTU noodle. This isn't going to be fixed. I really don't think this is going to be fixed with 4.3.
No.
14.
I was actually saying last week that I actually banned the word desync in my channel for a week. You couldn't type desync.
I tried to.
All right.
I was upset.
You can't talk about Scorpius.
It's just getting ridiculous where it's like, oh, I died to desync. Oh my god.
Oh, I get that.
I just died. It's like, all right, cool. Where everyone is in that same situation. It's not just for you, you know. The desync's really bad, guys. It's really bad. Unfortunately, I don't think desync's ever going to change this year. I don't think CIG have the ability to do anything to make it better for us. We are literally going to have to wait until whatever new tech that they've got replaces everything we are running on just now. So maybe Vulkan, maybe new server things, meshing, whatever.
I don't think the issue is going to be solved until after server meshing. What I am not saying is I don't think server meshing is going to fix the issue, but I don't think they're going to be able to fix the issue until after server meshing.
Do you know what the issue is?
I think
it's netcode.
No, the issue is that you guys have to guess what the fucking issue is. And like you asked the question on SCL, and Todd Pappy kind of got smacked in the face by it. It seemed like wasn't super prepared for it, and then there was no follow up with it after that, right? Like Todd Pappy did not say what we wanted to hear, and what we want to hear is these are the issues that are plaguing us, and this is the thing that is hopefully going to resolve it. These are the things that we're doing now to try to resolve it, or we're not doing anything now to try to resolve it because we think that this will do it later. For example, we're not going to do anything. This goes back to combat pilots 6, 8, 9 months ago. We're not doing anything with accelerations because we think capacitors is going to help resolve that. And everybody kind of lost their shit. And now capacitors are here. People seem to be relatively happy. It just comes down to communicating what the major issues are and what should be communicated. I definitely feel like that's where CIG drops the ball from a community engagement standpoint, and have been for a long time, is they just have to maybe better, or maybe this just comes down to these are some of the important things to you two or us three or a smaller section of people, and the things that they want to communicate are not what you want to be communicated to. But it just comes down it does come down to this is a pretty big problem. It happens to literally everybody, and it should maybe just be on a pinned post somewhere at the start of an SCL, somewhere where it's like, all right, acknowledge me. Like that's what it comes down to. And I don't want to say this and point at you in a negative way, Moist, because this is not how I think you feel at all. But I feel like at times we are thought as by them as like, you know, waving our hands, pay attention to me, like being kind of crybaby about it. But that's not really what's happening. It is sort of an issue that I feel like definitely needs to be addressed occasionally by community team or a video team or whatever you want to, the combination of the two, however you want to do it. It's this is a major issue. It has been a major issue for a while. It's been getting worse. It has not been getting better. So and when we asked the question and we finally got it asked, because we had to literally brigade SCL. That was the only SCL I've ever watched live. It was brigaded by every PvPer in chat, just saying desync, desync over. And Jared like begrudgingly asked the question. And then you get the point where Todd Pappy wasn't even prepared to answer it. And that's like the problem with that situation. It's like it was asked in the thread.
Some of us
it should have it was asked in the thread. There should be something surrounding it, you know.
It feels
the biggest thing with it,
like CIG are too scared to talk about the subject. It feels like they're burying their head in the sand. I know what I'm saying is going to upset some people, but this is genuinely what it feels like to me.
That's how they are making you feel. That is your feelings.
Like
This is what drives me nuts.
It's okay to have feelings, chat. Okay.
Yeah, people call me a whiner and a crybaby. It's the way I feel in the moment. It's the way Moist feels now. And it's not whining. It's not crying. It's how you feel.
I think what people like myself are asking for is some communication and to have our expectations set, because I'm really excited for 3.14, but I'm gonna be really upset if I'm really excited for all this stuff coming in 3.14 and it's another patch that is unplayable for me. All I want to know is be realistic with me and be honest with me. I'm an adult man, and I know there are some people in the community who get super angry and upset, but I am accepting enough that if they say to me realistically this problem isn't going to be solved until after server meshing, I'll put my hands in the air and go, okay. I'm just asking to have my expectations set. That's all I'm asking for.
When was the last time they mentioned it legitimately? A while ago, right?
Without being brigaded? I don't remember.
My biggest concern with it is that they've got a dynamic event coming up, which on paper, on what they've said, sounds really, really good. A proper PvP choose sides event, which is the Ninetales one. Even Tony Z hyped up a little bit. And this is coming from somebody that really, really wants this. I really want to have a PvP event. I want the old jump time back, all these good things. But it's going to pay me to say it. Don't run the event, please. I do not want a PvP event being boring as hell, because the event will be a cool idea, but the desync is going to be so bad that nobody's going to enjoy it. So for the first time we ever get a dynamic event that's PvP oriented or something like that, it's just going to be horrible. And people are going to complain about it, and then it's not getting the proper feedback that an event like this or somebody sets up deserves. Because somebody in one area of CIG has worked on this event. It works perfect on our servers with nobody there, and all the NPCs are having a great, joyful time. The moment that goes on to our live server or PTU and stuff, it's just like, you're chasing after somebody, and then, magically they've teleported 4 kilometers away. I've died because the invisible guy across the galaxy that I didn't even know about is shooting at me, and it's just going to be so bad. So please, just shit can the events. Don't run them. Fix your servers. Fix the desync. That's more important to anyone right now that actually does combat. And then bring in the events and show the world, what you can actually do with it. There's no point doing an event if it looks crap.
What do you think about that, Moist? Because I disagree with him about not doing the event, but yeah.
I'm actually really torn.
He's right.
Because I'm one of the people who has been screaming to give us an event, a jump town or something, right? But in the same vein, I want it without desync. And I kind of get DarkLaw's point in that you do risk just ruining the event by nobody will play it, right?
Okay.
Or people will play it once, realize how bad the desync is, and then not bother trying it again.
And then you just get people complaining on all their channels, all on YouTube and Twitter, Instagram, MySpace, over and over again. Desync this, Do you think that I'm gonna have 6 more months of Icy Jones coming into my channel complaining about desync?
Icy is the worst. Can we have a podcast about how Icy's the worst?
Anybody
Did
anybody
That guy
see my
sucks.
reply to him today on Twitter? I feel really bad. I'm sorry, Icy, if you're watching. I tore his head off a little bit. I'm sorry, Icy. I love him. But here's where I will argue for the event. What running the event might actually do is make more people in the community wake up. Look how many people during the mask event went, oh, PvP is a thing. PvP is fun, right? Including you.
I was obsessed
right?
with it.
Right?
That's
And
the actual first
it
time I
will
didn't think you were a
put-
douche and was like, wow, this guy is actually pretty cool.
How about after that?
Yeah.
I still think he's a douche.
Absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. No. I post all your content on my Gilded, so
I know,
there you go.
I know. I'm playing.
You're in
with
that.
you.
You're in that category.
But here's why I disagree. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Moise, you weren't done yet.
But all I was going to say was it might put more pressure on CIG to acknowledge the issues, right? Or try to resolve the issues. One or the other is fine.
I come at it from a little bit of a different angle, and I know this is going to sound like very CIG apologist or whatever. Look at the Xeno threat on paper, how they've described the changes for it, right? So they did it once. It was horrible in many ways. There was desync. It sucked. There was a lot of shit that was bad about it. They definitely took the feedback from whatever we were able to do and make it better. And in general, what's the most important thing for me about the Ninetales event is that this event is going to happen dynamically all the time. Whereas the Xenothreat event feels like a scripted storyline type event that the lore team might be more involved with, where this is something that is going to be a very regular, occasional occurrence. And the idea of getting any bit of feedback, no matter how shitty the experience may be initially, I think is super important because for me, like Moist said, I've been yelling at the rooftops for something that brings every aspect of the game together in one place at one time. And as bad as that experience might be in 3.14, the lessons learned from it for whenever they do fix the desync are still valuable. But I agree. I don't, because this is why I agree with you though, Mike, is that that event is so important to me too that I don't want it to be ruined by something trivial. That feels trivial. Like
Xenothreat has been done, and now they've improved on it. That's amazing. Now they could do the same thing with the Ninetales. They could roll the Ninetales. It'd be an absolute disaster. They learn from it. They build up on it. Stuff. Yeah. But I can tell you already now, it's going to be a disaster because people are already PvPing. Arena Commander has positional desync of all places. There's no point doing a PvP event that gets people hyped up for them to be like, wow, this is absolutely dog piss.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel bad for you guys.
I would prefer if
first event for you.
Just take... Yeah, for PvP in general, just hold that event back. Run the Xeno one. Let's see what the Xeno's like. But hold the PvP event back until you can try and figure out what's going on with desync. Please. I don't want it ruined because people are teleporting backwards or 4K or across the universe.
To touch on what you just said about the positional desync in Arena Commander, you know, when this question was again, Jared, it seemed, asked that question begrudgingly because they were brigaded by all the PvPers in chat, and then Todd Pappy's answer was what? It's because of tick rate of the server or performance of the servers.
But it's 1v1 Arena Commander.
It's Arena Commander. It doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So that's not an answer. Like we would like to know more information about this. That's all we're asking for.
I was literally in 1v1 this morning. This patch recently come out, and
he's not.
I'm shooting at somebody
really
who's behind me.
Yeah, but I think what we're asking for is to get the answer from somebody who does know the answer, right? And here's the thing: I completely get it. Not everybody wants to go on video, right? That's absolutely fine. So let's have a written article, right?
Yeah.
Or something, please.
Yeah, because then Nubifier can make content from it. SaltEMike can make content from it. Ad revenue goes up. People know about it. It's so much easier than getting a dev involved.
The ad revenue, right? No, but the thing for me is just if it's definitely an issue that people want to hear about, just like let's try and get the answer as best we can. I think what they the CIG. I don't know who to talk to about it. Like, not talk to, like actually talk to them, but like I don't know who to ask or whatever, or who to pose the question to. Is if something is really obviously like an issue that's bothering the community, how do you go about addressing it if you expect the community to not like the answer? I'd rather you give the answer that we're not going to like than not give the answer at all. And I think that's really
Oh
the
yeah,
theme of the
100%.
subject,
I
right?
like if Chris Roberts in his latest video with Sandy said they've got like what 20, 25 people working on like server meshing, trying to get it up to a standard where they can bring it out to us, which is awesome. But who in that 20-man team that are doing stuff with servers and stuff, who's actually looking into like net coding, what needs to be done to make the servers a little bit more stable or not have this and stuff, and then just basically say, look guys, what we're trying to work on just now is going to take 6 to 12 months. We're working on it. This is where we're at just now. The problems are this, because for me, I don't understand what the hell's going on. All I see is people teleporting around, and I would just like to understand why,
like
how do they think they're going to be able to correct that?
If they came out and said, I don't know if this is the case, but if they come out and said, right, the reason it's getting worse is because each patch we're implementing things that bring us closer to server meshing, and as a result, those things don't gel so well with other netcode, right?
Yeah,
I'd be like, oh, well, you're actually moving forward. It doesn't feel like we're moving backwards, because that's what it feels like right now. We're talking about a multiplayer game, right? The fundamental core mechanic in a multiplayer game is the multiplayer bit, right? And when the multiplayer bit in a multiplayer game doesn't even work, that's a problem.
Yeah,
right?
like but we're not even talking just from combat.
Moving forward, not backwards.
We're not even talking about just combat.
It affects miners and shit, right?
Yeah, like my buddy was in the back of a cutlass with me. I never saw him. And like even just the simple thing is like he had to jump out of the ship because he had a criminal rating and we didn't, and we were trying to avoid any problems. We ended up in jail anyway, but the idea of like seeing him jump out of the back would have been even just like a fun moment while we were playing, and even that has an effect on your experience. So it's not just the combat side of things. So I really don't think that like just combat players should be kind of whining about this stuff, or I don't want to use the word whining because I fucking hate
whining.
I
think is fine because it is whining and it's fine. I don't think people need to stop thinking about the term whining like it's a negative thing.
Yeah.
It is because it passes a point. If it gets to the point where it's whining, then I think kind of CIG are dropping the ball a little bit. And it almost feels like they're kind of ignoring people's concerns. But
again, I think it's very important to say it's how it feels. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part is we don't know why they are comfortable about saying something or not saying something because we don't work there and we have no idea. I don't understand, and with things like this, I feel like yes, I've overreacted to things. I'm sure all three of us have at some point, but the idea of them just saying it, man, just say it. Like for me, I would be totally comfortable with like, hey, all of our engineers, everybody's on server meshing. Sorry, dudes, like. We will address it when we understand our environment of how our network is going to be after the server meshed environment comes in. Then we'll address your whole desync issue. Okay, fine, fine, Clive, fine, Jared, fine, whoever tells me that.
I mean, like
cool.
it doesn't even need to be somebody like that. I mean, you could literally have like Chris Roberts turning up and look, this is what we're doing just now, and yeah, it would be so much better than just no information whatsoever on the go.
The thing about Chris is he would start talking about like 12 years in the future about, we're going to have 5 million players here at our cloud city, and, you're going to see a rain cloud coming in and it's going to be fantastic. And you're just going to be like, but I asked about desync. I don't understand.
One thing I'll mention as well, and I try to remind people of this in my chat quite a lot, is just because you don't see desync doesn't mean other people don't. Like, and a great example of that, right, is... like I wasn't aware how it affected mining until you mentioned it to me, Mike, right?
Oh, it's bad. Yeah.
And you also have to bear in mind that there are new people coming to the verses. There are so many people coming over from Elite Dangerous right now, right? And their experience of the game right now, oh, what's that? My friend who's running alongside me is just their animations are all janky. Oh, that's just Star Citizen, right? And they don't see that as a problem. Oh, what's that? My mate's flying alongside me in his Aurora, and it's kind of juttering backwards and forwards. Oh, it's just Star Citizen, right? But what they don't see is that years ago we didn't have we had some of that judderiness, right? But we didn't have
straight up
such positional
teleporting.
desync like we have now. We don't have the teleporting we didn't have. We don't have our friends saying,
Hey,
they're
spool
in
your
our
quantum
ship,
drive so I know
whereas
where you
actually
are.
we don't see them, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, some people are coming into the community, and this isn't me digging at people, it's just pointing something out. They just see it as, oh, it's just Star Citizen, right? And they think it's fine. Whereas for those of us who have been around for a very long time, since pretty much the beginning, it has felt like it's
been
going
Star
backwards.
Citizen.
And I think that's why it's frustrating,
But all right, I think we've definitely beaten that horse. Hopefully, it's still alive and not dead, and hopefully, we hear a response about it at some point. I don't know. I think the thing is like, I don't know how to go about it. I feel like everybody has they made their posts, spammed in this channels, and I don't know what to do now. So hopefully, somewhere out there, we get heard. And
apparently they literally just posted, oh, don't click it, don't click it, don't click it.
Why would you click anything from him? Yeah.
I got you baited.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Somebody in chat posted a link. I know better. I know better. But all right, I'm gonna bring in our one and only caller, which I'm so worried about. But here we go, Pawkilla. Welcome, Pawkilla. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey. Yes, I can hear you guys.
So, Pawkilla, what do you have to add to today's show? What would you like to say?
Well, originally I was gonna talk about desync.
Okay.
But you guys beat the host to death. So
Yeah.
I don't know what to talk about anymore.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're not in wave 1, so you don't have any 3.14 experience yet, right?
Yeah, boy.
Just subscribe, dude. Give them some more money.
Just subscribe.
I don't need it. I don't want more money.
I don't know. What were you gonna say about desync?
Nothing. I just want to, you guys already touched on most of the part I want to say. But I do want to point out the scale they are dealing with is quite unique compared to other games. When you're implementing lag compensation in other games, you quite deal with a pretty, how do you say? The scale you are dealing with is kind of the same. It's kind of in your first person scale, and your speed is not as much of dynamic compared to Star Citizen. Because in Star Citizen, when you get into a ship, you're flying like 300 meters per second or 500 per second. And when you're trying to do interpretation in the fixes, when it comes to that, it kind of get a little bit funky. There's a lot of adjustment they had to deal with.
I feel like that's why they wanted to slow us down so much. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But they didn't.
Yeah.
Are we on about ship speeds? Because they didn't really slow us down that much, I don't think.
Well, they also said that it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Capacitors wouldn't. I don't know what plan they have to do it, but yeah. So I don't
sent
want to
you a
touch on
link
that
in-
yet, actually, because I don't think that this patch was for that. You sent me a link? Let me grab it.
No.
I sent you a link. It's not Star Citizen, but it's relevant to server meshing. So that is, it was Riles that initially sent me this. It's from ScavLab. And if you bring it up, every single one of the characters you see dropping down from the sky is a player. That's 4,000 players on screen. It's insane.
This is, what game is that, right? This is their engine?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Special OS. It's kind of similar to server meshing, but it's aimed more toward general solution. So it's not like Star Citizen where it's embedded into the game logic that much. So if any game want to use Special OS, they have to build on their type of framework.
And that's
Yeah,
essentially
and
what.
something you have to bear in mind as well watching. It's impressive to see, and it there are a lot of people who doubt on Star Citizen and their ability to do server meshing, and this is slightly different. But and the other thing that you don't see is like anyone doing combat and stuff, right? Because I imagine because they got people from all over the world in one server, from what I believe. So I imagine hit reg is all over the shop, but it shows it's possible, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, anyone who thinks.
I mean, there's
like,
a
what's
lot
the
of
idea
games
to
that
it?
do
It's not
have server
possible.
meshing and phasing and all these things. I mean, it just, as I tried to
But
say
they-
to people on my channel, is that
CIG
Star Citizen is more like they're paving a way in a different game. Like it's not like you can just
Yeah.
go to another
They're
game
trying to
and
do it without
copy it and
phasing
stuff.
as well.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is
They're doing
nuts.
stuff that doesn't really exist right now in other games, and that's why it just takes longer for them to achieve these things. But once they've
Yeah.
got it, that's where other games benefit from this. So as
Mhm.
painful it is for us to wait, we just need to wait a little bit longer and then get
Yeah.
the rewards. It's not impossible. It just has to be taking time, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and the
This
other
video
competition
gave
are
me
still
some
in a
copium.
research phase.
Who's the other
Yeah.
competition?
Right now, there are two other companies that are doing the same thing. One is the Special OS, which is the company that are making the game you are seeing on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is Either Engine, which is a company that's working with the EVE Online. They are doing some prototyping with EVE Online and Minecraft,
Nice.
in fact.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and Minecraft is fundamentally pretty scalable in terms of their architecture. If they can just split up all the chunk to all the different server threads and remove some of the underlying problem, it can actually be a very good foundation for something like server meshing to be a reality.
Yo, Pakilla, wait a minute. Who are you? This guy.
Huh?
Okay, I just want to point out this guy. My entire streaming career pops into voice, shits on me, and leaves. That is his whole existence. He comes here today and is coming at us with all these big words: five-heading, game developer, being normal.
It's because for once he's surrounded by intelligent people, right?
It's
And
true.
friendly
Yeah.
It's
people.
ridiculous.
Yes,
So-
indeed.
I mean, you've got two
For
cults
once
in
in
the
my
same
life,
room.
I have finally
We
have
can
a
understand-
competent people to talk with.
we understand the words that he's speaking, right? That's the difference.
This is ridiculous.
Do we?
I don't.
I don't. I'm just nodding my head.
Me too. Yes, we have to remove those underlying issues. Agreed. Yes, yes.
No, I'm just talking in a very broad term because you don't want to get too technical about it
Yeah,
because nobody
Yeah.
understands it.
it's true.
Yeah, it's very technical. Yeah.
Yeah, but in
This is
general,
crazy. Like,
yeah, this is nuts. And
Yeah,
like,
and
I
I
think he
also love.
is like,
I love
go to these areas
love
so you can
that-
see nobody's desynced.
the massive guy in the background who's telling them to jump is a GM. So what we need is a massive Xylo like this in Star Citizen.
It's
I
true.
think.
no. They don't get special.
We already got
privileges.
tiny
But then you
person.
can
We
try
just
to
had
kill
to
him.
do a reverse.
Have you guys seen the tiny bug yet?
Oh, dude, it's the best
I
bug
watched
I've ever
Captain
seen in the
Burks
game.
of it.
It's wild.
So good.
I just wish they had the opposite, where you could go really big and just be running around the station as like a massive entity.
I mean, if we can
Yeah.
get really small, there's a chance that a new bug can come up and we just get really, really big.
Yeah.
That'd be
Trust me,
sweet.
I can get really, really big. I'm working on it right now.
What?
Hashtag no
Oh.
offense.
What is going on? We have. See what I mean? Paul Killa comes in and everything gets off the rails. All right,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
it's okay.
Delete the VOD.
Yeah,
It'll be
right.
fine.
But I don't know, Paul Killa, is there anything else you want to add? We're a little over 2 hours now. It's probably time to kind of wind down. Anything else you want to
Okay,
add?
I just want to add another small thing. Is the persistent is coming back, and I'm really happy
It's
about it.
better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't think to talk about that. It is better.
Like for example, when you land a ship and say you change your power capacitor and you log out, when you come back in and spawn the same ship, it's in the exact same position as it was. Pretty cool, actually.
Yeah,
Check
I landed on
this
a
out.
planet yesterday. I Alt F4'd, went and ate a sausage, came back, logged back in, and I logged straight back into the ship. It
Check
was
out
incredible.
check out what we did This is for piracy. This is going to be a big deal. This ties to piracy and just a very cool thing that you guys may not know. Right before the podcast started, one of the members of our party, Reezer, pulled off his ammo container for his gun. Pulled his magazine off of his suit, put it in his hand, put it on the ground. I picked it up and put it on my suit. So now if you're running low on ammo,
pretty cool.
your friends can give it to you. And that's
Okay, that's cool. I wasn't aware of that.
Sick. Yeah, that is sick. Med pens, everything.
This is where you draw the line where we say this is sick, but we have no idea if this is having a knock-on effect with like positional desync and stuff like that. So
Sure.
it's like, which would you prefer to have right now? Would you like to have the cool things and deal with the desync, or would you? Yeah, I know you want both, but you can't have both right now. Okay. But this is where like CIG will be developing more systems for it, so that it gets better and better, and we just unfortunately have to grit through it as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if that's the issue, obviously, so it's a little weird to bring it up as far as that goes. But I think you're right. It's just like, man, we all want things, but we don't know the knock-on effects, and I think that's the most important.
Yeah,
point
exactly.
That you make there. Yeah. But in general, the thing that I see that matters for piracy, but this definitely ties into what TDL just said, is remember when things would drop from players and they would instantly disappear? That didn't happen today. That didn't happen today. So
that's nice.
Kind of might be nice, kind of might be not. We'll have to see. But yeah, I think this is probably a good place to say goodbye, boys. But
bye.
yeah, I think I was super excited to have this conversation and just let you guys go. I would say I apologize a little bit as a host in the beginning. I think I started with Moist right away, and then Dark was kind of like, yeah, I agree, and we should have had a little more back and forth, and I tried to dial it in and make it more conversational.
Oh, that's cool. The lore intelligent human can talk first. Fine.
I
So
I wouldn't apologize because I don't want to sound like a sucker, but I think you are probably the best moderator out of all the podcasts in the Star Citizen community. Like, you actually moderate rather than it just be a discussion between friends. I think that's fantastic.
I try.
Yeah,
I definitely try to bring my perspective into how I feel about the conversation, but definitely when we have guests like yourselves, I would really try to focus on you guys as much as possible and try to have you guys have the conversation amongst yourselves. But yeah,
this is actually funny enough. This is the first time I've been on ATC, but this is the first podcast that I've been on not drunk. So I have enjoyed this a lot more.
Yeah, I had to
because I will actually be able to remember this podcast.
The last time me and Michael were on a podcast together, we almost got Astropub banned.
DarkLaw, that one.
And DarkLaw was doing kung fu in the background. It was
no. When we get to that stage, you gotta remember there's a second entity in this body called the DarkLaw. And he did that, not me. No, I was completely separated. So yeah, the DarkLaw did the kung fu stuff.
The first like combat summit podcast I had was with Moist and Cutlet, and Moist was drinking wine, and we told Moist there's no more wine on the podcast. We had to
no more wine.
We can't have any more wine on the podcast. Yeah, it was fun though. It was like, I really enjoy doing this, and I more enjoy doing the podcast topics on things I don't understand, because I just love asking questions and learning more about it and hearing you guys talk, and how much effort and work you guys put into your craft is insane. I only dream to be, a quarter
just
as
roll out of
good
bed,
as you
dude,
guys are.
and start shooting shit.
Yeah, you make it sound so easy, but it's not that easy. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming on. Dark, I know this is your first ATC, but it definitely won't be your last. Moist, you've been a staple forever and always will be. And I just really appreciate you guys. And the guys watching, whether it's YouTube or Twitch, I hope you guys had fun too. And yeah, I think the overall theme of today is we're going in the get sneak Yeah. Code. What was it? Code
TDL.
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 Yeah. If you want, I'll put the link in the description. If you can send that to me. But the for me the thing is I think we're really going in the right direction in so many areas, and like we kind of ended with, it's with meshing and desync. It's like I feel like we're just gonna have to be pretty patient here, but we feel like we're finally going in the right direction, and I cannot wait for 3.15.
Yeah,
we'll have to see.
If CIG can continue on where they're going with, where a lot of people don't like it and stuff, that's fine. But every time they do a patch now, it's painful in some ways, but I am seeing performance things moving forward, and that for me just always excites me. If
100%.
we just keep going forward, even baby steps, then I'm fine with that, even if it takes another lifetime.
Yeah, it's true. But all right, guys, we'll let you go. I'll do the little outro thing as always. If you're watching on Twitch and you didn't catch the whole show, it'll be up on YouTube later today. The 2 hour plus ones do take a little bit longer to get up for whatever reason. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can join in the show. And most of the shows aren't typically this format, right? So it's usually just me, and then we invite whoever is willing to talk on the specific subject that we're talking about that week. And you guys can just pop on and have a chat. So twitch.tv/SaltEMike or in discord.gg/SaltEMike to join the show live. And again, YouTube, SaltEMike as well, SaltEMike everywhere. Before we go, though, Moist, where can people find you? You got any exciting things going on? I know it's we're still in testing phase, so it's a little bit weird.
Yeah, I'm just going to see where it's going to go. I've started enjoying hot wing challenges on my stream.
I've heard,
which is fun. Somebody ordered me, what's it called? The bomb from Hot Wing.
Oh god.
So,
oh yeah.
Dude, I can't wait. I can't wait.
That's the one
so
everybody
there's a bit
hates.
of that. I'm excited to see where combat's going to go. I want to spend some time with the TheDarkLaw, trying to do some low flying. Maybe I can get good again. But I'm just kind of excited to see where 3.14 goes. And please, everybody, follow me. I'm pretty desperate at the moment because I need more friends.
Well, I finally put your name correctly on the overlay.
Oh, people might find me now. That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the PvP Academy, by the way, B-Barry is trying to bring Merit, the PvP Academy, back for 3.14. They took a hiatus because desync in 3.13 was so bad, but we'll have to keep an eye on our Discord and our Guilded for announcements, and we'll see where that goes. But it's their aim to try and get the PvP Training Academy off the ground again.
Yeah, it's obviously hard with the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
And then TDL, what about you? Anything exciting coming up? Anything you want to share? And where can people find you?
Obviously, you can go and check out my channel, the only TheDarkLaw. Yeah, pretty much just going to be blasting the sands on Daymar, pushing the arrow. I think I'm going to be spending more time on now, giving more feedback. CIG for certain ships that are overheating Atmo. I'll get into more PvP, but until that desync is sort of balanced off, it's not really a top priority of mine. It kind of depresses me too much when people are teleporting around. So yeah, pretty much just low flying, blasting sands, trying to get that 700 push. Yeah, pretty much it.
All right. I'll say one last thing about the desync that I think is hilarious. There was one clip going around with me where I was getting pirated by the Mongrel Squad, and everyone was like, "Mike, you did so good. You slayed." And it's like the one guy that I literally killed in FPS, I teleported all over the place and killed him. So like that was the only reason.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's like I didn't even do anything good. It was probably just desync. But anyway,
and that's the thing that's frustrating, right? When you have skill and you can't use it, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, so I can imagine how disappointing it was, because when I watched it back from his perspective, he probably would have headshot me like 15 times, but I just was not even there. But all right, guys, again, Twitch.tv/SaltEMike, Discord.gg/SaltEMike, and YouTube /SaltEMike, I guess, for the show if you guys want to watch it. And yeah, leave likes, follows. Thank you for everybody who followed and supported today on Twitch. I appreciate it, but obviously during the podcast, we can't really thank you live. So thank you so much for watching. You two guys, thank you so much for stopping by, and I can't wait for the next time. And Paul Kelly, you too.
Oh, bye.
All right. Bye-bye, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Great show.